He is here, I believe, and then the pledge will be by Supervisor Miller.
I bring greetings to the Board of Supervisors from the congregation of Sunland Lutheran Church in Casa Grande. You're trying to tell me I got a little taller? Heavenly Father, you had the prophet Isaiah write in his prophecy, "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." Heavenly Father, you are the ruler of your creation. Graciously regard those whom you have set in positions of authority among us, including Jeffrey and Stephen, Mike, Jeff, and Kevin, such that you would guide them by your Holy Spirit, that they may be high in purpose, wise in counsel, firm in good resolution, and unwrapping in duty, that under them our Pinal County would be governed quietly and peaceably. Through your Son, Jesus Christ, our Prince of Peace and Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Chairman McClure is absent today. I'll be running the meeting, and unfortunately, I'll be running the meetings for the following year, too. So bear with me if I have any glitches up here. First up is, like we do every meeting, the discussion of the 2022 election. Geraldine Rowe will lead that off.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Geraldine Rowe. We have completed the recount. All the tabulation is finished. We are just putting the final touches on the audit reports, and they will be sent to the Secretary of State. The Secretary has filed a motion to continue the hearing, which was currently set for, I believe, on Thursday, because of Hamadeh's litigation in Mojave County, where he has been granted access to some ballots. I think that's a prudent move on the Secretary's part. I would be surprised if that motion weren't granted, which would mean that the results would be due on the 28th if it was granted. But in any event, we have completed our process and will be transmitting to the Secretary. I think after the 1st of January, we will have the first kickoff meeting for the new building design. And my team and I will be very involved in planning new processes, new policies, new procedures, new guidelines for how those who are involved in elections conduct them and handle them. So with that, any questions?
I don't see any.
I do.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. On December 7th, Kent Volkmer informed the board there's a prohibition regarding revealing the count, concerning the recount. And we're not to disclose the vote total that's been determined. And I want to make it clear with the county attorney's office that judge's order does not prohibit us from talking about problems inside the election, other issues, process. Is that correct? That is correct. Okay. And we've gone over a couple of these questions in the past, but for the purposes of the public who are here, maybe we can rehash a couple of them. So after the initial machine count, there's a hand count of 1% early and 2% same day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just to get the public up to speed. So, and then the election recount for the Attorney General required that the Elections Department count an additional 5% of Election Day ballots. And you can, if I say something that's a wrong term, feel free to correct me. Okay. Go ahead.
So it's 5% of the precincts. We're precinct-based. So 5% in vote centers.
Okay. And then if I recall correctly, when we did that, there was one additional vote for Hamaday. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then we're doing a full recount using the machines because of the court case and the closeness of the race. Is that right?
That's right.
So how many tabulation machines do we use?
We used 2 for the recount.
Okay. And how many machines do you have?
3.
All right. And so do you want to go into why you didn't use that other machine?
We have a small staff. I did not bring back the early board to do the recount. We used staff. And so I had 2 teams, 2 partisan teams of 2 to operate 2 machines. We felt that we weren't under a time crunch. We did not have to rush through these. And we felt that we had enough time to do it in the way that we did.
Okay. Had you discovered any errors in the number 2 machine?
You know, I think the number 2 machine showed a bit of inconsistency.
Okay. And then, you know, the reason we're doing this week over week is that we can be transparent with the public and let them know that, you know, we're on top of correcting any errors in our elections process. And I'm very glad to hear you previously talk about process in the elections. Poll pads, were there errors with respect to the poll pads or data within the poll pads?
And I'm glad you asked that question, Supervisor Kavanaugh. I think it was last week we finally discovered that we had issues on Election Day with the poll pads where they were not operating for the first several hours on Election Day. We had No Inc., who is the vendor for the poll pad, on site. They were able to configure a workaround so that the poll pads did become functional, fully functional. They were functional, they just were not reading driver's licenses. And as it turns out, when you downloaded the information from Avid into the poll pads, there is a box you have to check to make sure that the driver's license information comes down to the poll pad, which if the poll pads are operating off of driver's licenses that are being scanned, it wouldn't even make sense to have a box to check in order to make those come down into the poll pads. It was not checked. So that was the configuration workaround that they were able to do in the first few hours of Election Day.
And how did the election workers in the field handle that?
There were 93 precincts, and for the most part, that was handled in 93 different ways.
Okay.
So,
and I'll bet you'll have a policy on that next year.
you know, a poll pad's not going to leave the building if it's not scanning a driver's license.
There you go. And, okay, so was there an issue with persons who voted early and then it didn't show, their vote didn't, even though it was tabulated or received, it didn't show up in your system or the state system, and so when they went to check, their vote didn't show up even though it had been received and counted?
I'm aware, but I did not research that. That probably would be a question for Ms. Lewis.
Okay. And let's see. Was there discrepancies found when you tabulated small batches versus large batches? Were there discrepancies found that would make a difference in the outcome between large, if you counted a 50 batch versus 1,000 batch at a time?
Not across the board. What we found in the recount, and especially, was that because the batches came over from early voting in small batches, and the counting was done over an extended period of time at a more leisurely pace as opposed to election night, that there were fewer discrepancies. It was easier to, especially with a 2-card ballot. So you're still counting a 50 ballot batch, 100 sheets of paper. But it was easier to follow that trail for the folks who are working with the ballots. At the polls, it was difficult. I think that the two-card ballot created issues for poll workers. It was confusing. And in conjunction with the poll pad issues, they were sometimes uncertain. Do I tell you that I got 600 pieces of paper or just 300 ballots? But when, in terms of tabulating, it was not necessarily true that if you were tabulating 1,000 votes on that you were going to run into a discrepancy.
Okay. And was there sometimes a discrepancy between the number of sheets, I guess you'd call it, ballot sheets counted through the machine compared to the report of sheets delivered from the precincts? Did that occur?
Once we got an inventory of the actual ballots returned, then our numbers made more sense. They didn't necessarily always correlate to the official ballot reports.
Okay. And so we canvassed, I forget what the date was, maybe it was the 26th.
The 21st.
21st. So we canvassed the 21st. In hindsight, now that you had a chance to review everything, were the votes that we reported to the Secretary of State on that day different than the votes that you have tabulated since?
They are.
Particularly for the Hamady race.
They are.
Okay. So, well, I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
And process. I've harped on it. I was concerned, if you recall, about whether we stress tested or whether we counted the 2% was significantly, statistically significant number to validate the machines, and it turns out maybe it wasn't. And then the 5% caught one area, and as you count more, the errors kind of go up. So. I appreciate the work that you're doing in really fixing up the elections department and making it run smooth. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would this be an appropriate time for a point of personal privilege?
Yes, and then I'm going to have one also.
Okay.
Yeah, before we do call to the public, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, I raise this point of personal privilege consistent with our rules of engagement to recognize a notable person or persons in our midst. Not long ago, a woman reached out to Pinal County for help through our Housing and Grants Department. She works every day to support herself and her child and is grateful for the home she has, but it isn't much. Her longtime home is dilapidated, leans to one side, the windows are merely pieces of plastic, and the roof keeps out some of the water when it rains. The county has scheduled this woman for a whole home replacement sometime in the coming year through our grants department, but I think the terms preclude any additional help on the existing house, and she has a very leaky roof. So when it rains outside, it pours inside her house. And when the machinations of government fail, sometimes those in government persevere in spite of the former failings. In this case, in her county, in Pinal County, as I have been told, Supervisor Steve Miller and his assistant Mike Cruz went to the home of this lady with shingles, nails, tar paper, and felt and climbed up on the roof and fixed her roof on his own dime and on his own time. Mr. Miller did not seek accolades or recognition, but I want to tell you there's something different about living in Pinal County, where your elected representative shows up to fix your roof or clean an empty lot or volunteers not because of a photo op, but because of a sense of duty to your community. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize Steve Miller for his outstanding service to the citizen, as well as Mike Cruz, and break the rules and offer him a round of applause for making, and I quote the homeowner, a very happy Christmas for the citizen of his district. Good job.
And in my nervousness of running a meeting, back when we had the prayer and invocation, would have been the time to mention this, but by now you've probably all heard of the tragic accident affecting Sheriff Lamb. So I want everybody to make sure that you keep that family in your prayers as well. So with that, we'll go on to the call to the public, and everybody has 3 minutes, and nobody seems to notice that there's a red light up there. When the red light goes off, then that's 3 minutes, and don't make me have to gavel you. So I have several here, and Betty Kay, and you also want something pulled from consent. Do you want to just speak about it then? You want to speak about it during consent, so
Do it now or
when it comes up, and we're gonna pull that item. So I have John Orton, and give your basic address of where you live, close.
I live in an unincorporated area of Eloy. I would like to address this board about elections. If there were problems with the primary election, why did we rush to canvass of the general election? That was number one. Number two, were there problems with the general election that the elections department sought to conceal? Also, I would like to point out that according to the Arizona statutes, this board has complete control of how we run our elections in this county. I'm over 70 years old. I remember what it was like when we went to vote in the 70s. And it was small precincts, just like everywhere in the nation, 1,500 or less. We counted them. Our neighbors, all counted the ballots in those precincts. There was never the problems that we have here. According to the statutes, the only reason you have to, when you use the tabulation machines, that's when you have to do these 2% recounts. Let's go back to what we know works for over 200 years in this nation. Let's go back to having precinct-level elections where the volunteers or the people in that precinct, you're sitting across from your neighbors and you're all counting the ballots together. And this is absolutely ridiculous what we're doing. And you guys have full control over how this process operates. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Pete Saban.
Good morning, Vice Chair Surdy and Supervisors. Pete Saban, unincorporated Marana. First, I just want to take a moment to express my sorrow, condolences, and prayers for Sheriff Lamb and his family for the loss of their son and granddaughter. It's a horrible tragedy. We never know what God's plan for any of us are. That doesn't make a loss like this any easier to cope with. Sheriff Lamb and his family need all our prayers right now. Okay, so of course, I'm going to talk about election integrity. As we sit in this room this morning, there's a trial underway in Superior Court in Mesa, which is a complaint that Runbeck, Maricopa's ballot printing contractor, did not follow Arizona law regarding chain of custody for 300,000 ballots. That's being argued. Another complaint that printer malfunctions were intentional is also being argued. The fact that these complaints were not dismissed out of hand for legalese mumbo-jumbo like latches is in itself pretty incredible. Legal precedent is that absent compelling evidence, it is to be presumed elections are run fairly. One reason I dislike the law, which seems to me to use words to justify injustice, is that this judge actually wrote an illegal vote is a person voting who shouldn't have voted, but not the other way around. When a vote is suppressed, that complaint was dismissed. 4-hour-long lines in conservative areas only when conservatives vote 3-to-1 majority on Election Day is suppression, plain and simple, no matter what that judge or the left might say. Arizonans apparently agree with this sentiment, as a recent Rasmussen poll found 72% of Arizonans believe what happened in Maricopa on Election Day affected the outcome of this election. Seems the big lie is that Arizonans think their elections are free and fair. It turns out Arizona corruption runs deep. Last week it was exposed that Runbeck president and COO Jeff Ellington, who donates heavily to Democrats, chairs the board of directors of Rhino AZ House Speaker-elect Ben Thomas' family-owned company, Precision Aero. Finally, the depth of our government's collusion with big tech to deprive conservatives of their First Amendment right becomes clear. There can be no doubt FBI, DOJ, all other three-letter agencies are criminal elements within a tyrannical government that need to be disbanded and remade as constitutional elements of a legitimate government. Those on the left who are gnashing their teeth and leaving Twitter aren't doing so because they are being censored themselves. They are doing so simply because conservatives are no longer being censored. Let that sink in. I don't want to hear another word about the Constitution from any liberal who isn't fighting for my right to free expression, guaranteed by God and as enumerated in our Bill of Rights. If you don't support the rights of all Americans, then you are nothing more than a hypocrite. As Katie Hobbs has actively worked through the Twitter Trusted Partner portal to deprive Arizonans of their First Amendment rights, she is not fit to be governor of this state. We'll see what happens with Kari Lake's lawsuit, but right now it is clear to me this board will not stand up for the rights of its conservative citizens because lawsuits cost money and counting ballots by hand is impractical. What does that matter? What does money matter if we lose our republic? Thank you.
Vicki McLaughlin.
Good morning, Supervisors, Mr. Surdy, and all the rest of you. And Merry Christmas to everybody, to you and to all of the guests here today. I am here speaking in reference to the Pinal Civic Engagement Award that is being proposed. It's number 4 on the agenda. I think it's a great idea. I think anything we can do to bring people out, get them civically involved in their communities, and to take note of them, and to encourage them to be involved is a good thing. And I commend all of you for coming up with this. I hope it was your idea. I'm against attaching anybody's name to any kind of awards, buildings, you name it. I think as soon as you attach an individual's name to anything, all of a sudden you attach that person, their ideology, and all of that to it just by connection. And I think to have the Pinal Civic Engagement Award would be a wonderful thing. And obviously, in my short time coming here, seeing Mr. Ravalis here, he is engaged, he's involved, and he very obviously should be the first recipient of this award. And I just think, and I hope that you will be recognizing and awarding everybody in the whole county who is involved and taking part civically in their communities. So thank you again, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, the next two want to speak about items that are on the agenda, but I heard that you may not be here. So Gina DeBella, do you want to talk now, or do you want to wait until public comment?
Thank you. I'm a caregiver, and I got to get back to my duties. My name's Gina Diabella. My Pinal County addresses are in the unincorporated Maricopa areas of Hidden Valley and Papago Buttes. I am requesting the Board of Supervisors table voting on agenda item 12 and 13 for the proposed Desert Gardens development. We own 40 acres that are directly adjacent to this development and were never invited to any community meetings that were held with other adjacent property owners. We were unaware of this development until we received notification from Pinal County, and even then, upon repeated requests to see the applicant's documentation, we finally got the info when it was published on the county's website right before the P&Z Commission hearing, which we attended. The comp plan stresses that it strives to make our communities distinguishable destinations. What distinguishes our community and makes it a destination? Our rural lifestyle. Many of our neighbors moved to Hidden Valley, Thunderbird Farms, and Papago Buttes for the rural lifestyle. On average, most residents for miles around live on 3 1/3 acres. We are known around the country and Canada as a winter playground for the horsemen and women. The Zabawa Thunderbird Farms Arenas, the Zabawa and Thunderbird Farms Arenas host dozens of horse events each month, economically benefiting the region, as well as hundreds flock in September for dove hunting. The comm plan states that the land use impacts all of the vision components, ensuring appropriate land use compatibility, directly affecting existing residents, visitors, and businesses, as well as future generations. The vision is intended to protect those Pinal County attributes that are most important to residents. In 2008, we were actively involved with the previous owner on creating a pad that would have made this development a distinguishable destination. Unfortunately, he had to discontinue the project due to the economic downturn. In the Desert Gardens zone change and planned area development narrative, they justify increasing the zoning to over 3 dwelling units per acre because it meets the desires of current and future residents and is designed to fit into the context of the existing adjacent and surrounding community. I'm here to inform you that no current resident desires that development. In fact, 100% of them oppose this type of development for the main reason that it does not fit into the context of the existing adjacent and surrounding community, a community which currently enjoys 1 dwelling unit per 3 1/3 acres or more and accommodates the residents' equestrian and agrarian passions. The Desert Gardens development does not. On page 1 of the Pinal County Comprehensive Plan, it states, the philosophy of the land use map is to concentrate higher development in Pinal County's central core while preserving the county's rural character to topography and environmental assets.
And there's that red light.
Okay, can I do a conclusion?
20 seconds.
Okay. We encourage the owners and representatives of the Desert Garden development to reconsider their zoning and pad to align with the compatibility of the existing adjacent neighborhood and natural environment. Collaborate with our local residents and Pinal County staff on a pad that promotes our area as a distinguishable destination. Work with the landowners and investors in honoring the area's equestrian and rural lifestyle, regional trail and open space connectivity, the natural environment, and wildlife connectivity.
Thank you. Courtney Ramirez, you wanted to speak on 14, 15, and 16. Can you hang around or you want to speak now? Okay.
Good morning, Board. And I wanted to add, if I may, I did want to speak on behalf of the elections also, and I'll try to squeeze it all in. We're all still really surprised that we're dealing with this election fiasco. And I think a lot of us still question the 2020 election and even prior elections before with the corruption in America and our elections. All this is happening. I echo this gentleman's comments also. Runback, Dominion, all these computer systems, right? Back in the day, elections were handled, I think, a little bit better without having to depend on all this election that's very faulty. Whoever is in charge of the elections, we have to fix it, whether it's you guys, state legislature. Something needs to happen to simplify our elections and get the right people into office, and that needs to be expedited. A lot of people believe, back in the Trump era, he did an executive order that had to do with interference with our elections. And a lot of people believe that a lot of what's playing out is possibly what happened in, who knows, the 16 election, the 20 election. Now we're dealing with all this with the 2022 election. There's just so much corruption, and we're all depending on you guys to fix it for us in Pinal County and statewide, and for God's sake, for America, right? So please just fix it. Put people in jail, do what needs to be done, and just fix this once and for all. We hope that you guys are going to set that example for Arizona. So much corruption just has to be stopped, okay, on behalf of the people. This is not American to have elections this way. And also on behalf of all these, I wanted to speak on what's coming in our neck of the woods, Arizona Farms. I echo what she was talking about in Maricopa. We have no roads, we have no water, and all this high density is coming. The rural lifestyle here is fading fast as we go. So I beg of you guys to stop all this high density in our area because there's no roads. Everything's gridlocked. Highway's a disaster. Attaway's a disaster. There's no roads, and all this high density is coming. So try to keep that in mind for the people that have to endure that all these horrific roads around us. Just keep that in mind. We don't want so much high density in this whole area, and so much is planned in the future for all that. So if you guys would just consider that and not allow so much high density. There's 2,100 homes times 3 or 4 cars per house in these subdivisions. It's not 1 car per house.
There's your red light.
Thank you. So that's
Okay.
all I had to say about that.
Anyone else? Yep. Just to go ahead to the podium and.
I'm Noel Ruck from Casa Grande. First of all, best wishes to all for a love-filled, inspirational holiday season. I'd like to praise you for the numerous ways in which you've engaged your communities recently. The email summaries are informative and have a neighborly feel to them. Superintendent Miller, your participation with the Veterans Day celebration at the Atessa Racetrack, and Superintendent Surdy, your pizza party providing food and information regarding county services are great examples of positive community interaction. There may be other examples of which I'm not aware or are upcoming in the near future. Whatever the case, keep up the good work in this regard. Praise goes out once again for a well-run election and the decision not to follow Cochise County down the recount rabbit hole. It's time for these conspiracy theories to end. On the agenda, it's great to see call to the public early on. Thank you for keeping it there. And lastly, it's heartening to see so many proposals on the agenda to help people in such areas as open spaces, homeless assistance, veterans assistance, community block grants, senior centers, community grants and projects, and effective diversion and probation projects. Thanks go out to all those involved across the county for their work in those areas. Now, my primary reason for speaking here today. Looking at the election results, one can see an evenly divided government at both the state and national level that will require a bipartisan approach to get needed legislation passed in the next 2 years. Governor-elect Hobbs won't sign anything that a Republican-led legislature tries to push through without Democrat support. And nothing will even make it to President Biden's desk for consideration without bipartisan support and cooperation between the House and Senate. So what will it be? 2 years of work for the people or 2 years of gridlock? My hope is 2 years of progress, but I'm not optimistic. I see Republican infighting over who will be the next speaker, McCarthy or Biggs, and the huge ideological ramifications of that decision. Extremists soon to be appointed as chairs of Key's committee. Governor Ducey reneging on his promise to call a special session to deal with the school funding cap. But if he can tie other items to the session, such as increased voucher money, he'll reconsider. If not, let that be the problem of the next legislature. I hear the Republican talking points about reversing Biden's programs, shutting government down as needed, going on a revenge tour to investigate and or impeach President Biden, Dr. Fauci, Secretary Mayorkas, and several government agencies. And of course, the calls to investigate the 2020 and 2022 elections as the titular head of the party calls for suspension and manipulation of the Constitution. With that as their focus, their approach is going to be a long 2 years. I ask Arizonans to contact their representatives to remind them of the numbers, the requirement of bipartisan efforts, and the demand that significant legislation will be passed in the face of the many pressing issues before us. I ask the board to do the same on your own or as a group. Your voices carry weight. Sending a note of support and a gentle reminder of the need for no-nonsense bipartisan legislation benefiting the people of Pinal County and Arizona in general certainly couldn't hurt. I hope you'll do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Pete, you already spoke. You can't go twice.
Okay.
Good morning, Chairman Surdy and other supervisors here. I'm sorry I didn't turn in a form. I wasn't actually intending to speak today. My name is Jennifer Hillsbass. I live in Supervisor Goodman's area. I am a resident of the unincorporated Santan Valley area. So I would like to say a few things. First of all, as a Santan Valley resident specifically, just know that regardless of party, our hearts and prayers are with Sheriff Lamb and his family. Unfortunately, I knew the young man. So, also, I would like to praise this board for sticking to its county issues. I do have some concerns when it comes to the roadways and the high-density developments, but as someone who works in construction and development and is fairly new to Pinal County, I look forward to working with you all to address those concerns in the coming years. I also would like to say, when it comes to a Civic Engagement Award, Mr. Revelis, I think, is very worthy of having his name attached to that award. He has been a steadfast member of the community, engaged not only in Board of Supervisors meetings, but also other types of civic engagement throughout the county in a very nonpartisan and bipartisan way. And with that, I will conclude my comments. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, discussion regarding a sister county partnership by the HRH, and Supervisor Miller will explain this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the HRH, His Royal Highness Amir Osman bin Ahmad, the King of Faluna, help me with the enunciations of these Ashantis, the region in Ghana. I met the king through a mutual friend, Levi Jones, who is a product of Eloy, Arizona, went to ASU and then played some pro football. He's owned some property, and we became friends over some things that he would like to do out in the Maricopa area. So I'm not real sure how him and the king got together, but the king was explaining to Mr. Jones about agricultural issues within his country, and Mr. Jones says, "You need to meet Supervisor Miller." So lo and behold, they made an appointment and came and visited me at my office, and I thank you, Levi, for mentioning that. I would like Levi and the king to come forth and give a little bit explanation, but I was involved in a sister city program years ago, and I really see the advantages of exchanging cultures, and if there's a way that we can do that, I think it's a positive for both of us. So if you'll come up and please give us all a little more detail about your thoughts. I think it's something that we should look forward to in the future, possibly.
Well, thank you, Supervisor, and hello to all the supervisors as well. Again, heart and prayers go out to Sheriff Lamb and the tragedy that took place there. So this partnership came about through Black Wall Street, Arizona. I was working on outreach programs and community programs there. Rochelle Harlan, who has been ordained Queen Aminata Koita of this same palace, who was the founder of Black Wall Street and that business incubator, and some of the programming that we're trying to do in unincorporated county of Maricopa. She was the one that has the international tie and how the relationship with His Royal Majesty came about. So with that, we've been discussing some of the sister county situations, trying to build some of those community bridges, cultural bridges, and mutually beneficial programming in the area of agricultural. Obviously, me being raised in Eloy, Arizona, born and raised, I'm aware of the agricultural climate, was born and raised in, and there shares some similarities and some of the same setbacks. So with that being said, I'll let His Royal Majesty take over. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for this special day for me. It is actually historic. My name is His Royal Majesty King Osman bin Ahmed Koita from Ghana. To most of my people who don't know Ghana, that Ghana is the first country to get independence in Africa under our president, President Kwame Nkrumah. I'm here because God has blessed America and God has blessed the state of Arizona for all these bounties in agriculture. I lead a people who are mainly cattle producers. We are cattle producers. I can say the Fulani are the second major cattle producers in East, West, and Central Africa. But in Ghana, I am the second in command of all the traditional chiefs. And in Ashanti region, which is a state like state of Arizona, I'm the king over there over my people. You cannot be a leader if you are not finding innovative ways to help your people. It is true that I dream of coming to this state, to my own people, to help us in the development of the livestock sector. Now, to talk about the sister states, yes, we know the importance of what a sister state is because we have a lot to offer. We have land. We have everything that needs that we can also partner with this state, especially in the field of agriculture. But we are people with lack of technology. We only have the cattle, but we don't have the modern method, which can go a long way to reduce the conflict that we are having between the herders and then the crop farmers. In terms of that, a lot of people are dying. For your information, I'm categorizing the Fulani into three. My niece, she's the second lady of the Republic of Ghana. Samira Baumia, she is the second lady. We have citizens Fulanis who are already there because my father was the head of the tribe since 1922. He died, my elder brother took over from 1978 and he died in 2017. And I also took over from that time to date. So therefore, we are looking at a way of partnering so that there can be technical transfer, and we can also offer a lot of play because in Ghana, we produce a lot of food, but it goes waste after some time. They are seasonal. They come, and because we have a problem of preservation. When I came, I went to my Shamaki, we went to a lot of these grocery stores to see how food are being packaged there. So there are a lot of resources in Africa, especially Ghana, where investment can come between us. There can also be cultural between the two people because we also have a lot of beautiful culture to also display in terms of what we do in Ghana. And there are a lot of investment opportunities in Ghana in terms of agriculture, mining, ICT, a lot of things. So we can also open it. And then I'm a member of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee and Transhuman set up by the President of the Republic to bring modernization and reform into that sector. So we have a lot to offer. And then where do we come in beside the state of Arizona, where God has given you a bounties of a lot of things? When I was coming, I was looking at a lot of things on the road. I said, Mr. Shamaki, because we have already also given him a title in our palace there. So that he's also our Shamaki. Shamaki means a protector of the tribe. He is the protector of my tribe here. So that's his title that we gave him. And then God has given us a very wonderful supervisor. And I'm using this opportunity also to thank him because he's somebody who is amiable, down to earth, and he listens to people, which I'm so much happy with that. There can be cultural transfer between here. I'm sure there is a lot you can also offer. And it's also good for you to know what do we have in Africa. Africa is thousands of miles away. But the state of Arizona is well known with all the bounties that you have. That is why we've also run to you to also see what God has given to you in terms of modernization of our livestock sector. We always talk about the ranch, but we don't even have a ranch that we can talk about. So part of my message from my government is that investors can come and invest into that life. We can give you everything that you need to make you have a good stay and then to invest so that there can be a synergy between the state of Arizona and then our people. They have also mandated me, because when I was here, when I came and we were able to talk to supervisor, I talked to my county. There's a complete county which is ready to merge up with Pinal County. So God bless America. May God give you more wisdom, and for everything that you are doing to the world, we are aware. We know what you are doing, and we know you can do more. God bless America, and have a nice Christmas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
So, Supervisor Miller, I'll let you take the next steps.
Well, I would just ask if you have any questions of His Royal Highness. I would entertain you to go ahead and ask them. This is something that we want to explore as far as a potential sister county program. It's not anything we're going to vote on today, but it's something that I think that we should explore. And I don't know if my colleagues have any questions for him.
I maybe have some comments. Of course, when this came up, I Googled Ghana to see, because I know a lot of countries in Africa don't like America. Ghana, I think, does. I think English is the official language.
Yes, English is the official language, but we also have a language we would call Fulde, which passes across the whole of East, West, and Central Africa.
And it seems to be a very religious and spiritual country, so no problems. It looks like a very pleasant place. And
Ghana, we don't have most of these problems because for us, we don't put religion as the major. We believe that we are all equal. So there we coexist. We do everything together. I was born some few meters from our king, Ashanti. And if you can Google it, you will see the Ashanti. So we coexist peacefully, and we are also trying to tell the world that most of what is happening is their own politics that they are doing. We want to merge up and have a peaceful coexistence with everybody so that it shows a sign, and then it will also portray to the world that we are people who like peace.
Anyone else? Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I, too, looked up, I knew a bit about Ghana, but I looked up the Fulani. And so it's my understanding that the principal economic driver for the Fulani is cattle.
Exactly.
And that your people are somewhat migratory. And not I think you touched on that, but you're not just in Ghana, you're elsewhere. Could you just expand on that?
No, most of this is a media problem. Like I said, we have a Ghanaian Fulani like me. We have like the second lady of the republic. So we are Ghanaians. We are born there. That's why I said my father was the head of the tribe since 1922. My father was a very, very old man. He died in 1978, and my elder brother took over. And then he died in 2017. So even synergy, even the kinship in me from my gate is about 100 years. So that should tell you that the tribe was an old tribe in Ghana. But most of the media put it in a different way because that is what they understand. We have the citizen Fulani like us. And we have the sedentary Fulani, that people who are coming because of the rich culture and then the rich vegetation that we have. They come and settle. More or less, they are sedentary. And then we also have the nomadic type who comes during dry seasons into the country along the line because most of our borders are not properly like what you have here. Along the line, they destroy farms and then it results into conflict and all this thing. That is why my president has added me to the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee for us to find innovative ways of ranching, which is open to investors. And then our people have very good grass-fed organic animal because we feed them on grass where it can be packaged to other countries. So there are a lot of investment opportunities. Like that is what I said. We are people with resources but without technological development. That's what I want to say. And that part is open for investors to come in and then do everything. there is a lot that we can offer. And I'm sure when this idea of Sister City comes in, is going to help both of us in terms of all the sectors that you may think about.
So the nomadic ranges and the nomadic
can you get a little
parts
closer?
of the country.
Levi, can you get closer to the microphone?
I was telling him to speak on it.
Oh.
So the nomadic areas and the nomadic tribal, the Fulani, you're correct. It does. They do roam through several different borders, several different countries, but they're kind of headed and centralized. That cattle community is centralized there in Ghana. Yes. And your king is out of Kumasi, which is maybe 100 miles away from Accra.
Great. And I'm also the vice president, so it means all the traditional chiefs there, they fall under me for directives and control. And as a leader, what do you need to do then to get a good connections and good way for them to develop the sector, which can go a long way to help all of us, and then to bring total peace to the world.
Okay. Supervisor Goodman, did you have something?
Yeah, I
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm waiting my turn. And so I don't need to get gavelled either, so I appreciate that. As I'm sitting here listening to what you're talking about, and you were talking about the mining industry and the farming and things, and then cattle, I'm thinking that you're picking a unique county out of the entire state of Arizona that we actually fit that category all the way across. So the expertise of the technology that we could lend to your country is actually quite a bit. The other aspect of it is on the other side of it is, and just from a personal note, yesterday my daughter set up for Feed My Starving Children. It's a program.
Come again, please.
It's called Feed My Starving Children.
Yes.
And it's a program that they put together food packages for children that are starving in third world countries. And we took our grandkids and a group of other people, and it was giving back, and it was pretty self-gratifying for my grandkids to participate. One thing that I've noticed that whenever we give, whenever we do things for other people, it has a way to help us appreciate what we have in life. And so when we talk about something like this and what it can do for our county, and there's a lot, like you said, I think there's a lot that we can learn from your country as well, a lot. And I'll tell you one right off the bat as I'm listening to you speak, is gratitude. We have so many of us that are in this country that feel entitled to the things that are given and that are granted to them because they were born here. And the sense of entitlement seems to be a big issue with a lot ingratitude, which creates ingratitude. And so just listening to what you're talking about, and as a leader, that's a good example for me at the things that you're looking for to help improve the lifestyle and the quality of life for your citizens. And I commend you for that. And I can't think of a better county for you to choose than Pinal County to be a sister partnership with. So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. This is
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say thank you for today's attendance. I will be in communication with you. I'm going to ask staff to look into the potential of this in the future, and best wishes on your travels, and look forward to engaging with you in the future.
Thank you very much, and then thank you for having me. Actually, as I said before, it's a very historic day for me. That's why I even needed a, because I need to tell my people on what I have said to a very wonderful county like Pinal County. God does his thing in his own way. In fact, Arizona is a blessed state because even there, whenever we are talking, you talk about them, say state of Arizona. And through Queen Aminata, we gave her the name Queen Aminata because we have a queen in northern Nigeria, Zaria, where the lady was so seriously trying to bring development. So Let me give you the reason why we got in touch with you, because I could see Supervisor Miller wanted to know what is the connections. Yeah, there were a time when there was a drought where my people are searching for water and grass to feed. So out of the blue, I said, how can I help? I cannot see people dying because of cut grass and water. I just put it on Facebook, and then she quickly answered, but we have the hydroponic machine that you can use. That is what she told me. We have a hydroponic machine that can use to grow grass for the people. And I realized that is also an opportunity for me to come. And when I came here, it was so marvelous. I went and saw it together with him. I invited her to Ghana and then installed her as a queen. And I'm looking at the day when, during your holidays, I will also invite you to come to Africa, to come to Ghana during our festival, to also come and meet the people. I've just told you the small thing about my people. My people needed education to develop. They needed a lot of things, which, God willing, gradually, because of the relationship, people from the Pinal County can see and how we can measure up together. So let me also say thank you very much for this opportunity given me to talk up my people. Thanks so much.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yes.
For the King?
Yeah.
You mentioned your festival. When is your festival?
Currently, our festival will come in April. That is where you see us on horseback, where we tell people on the way forward about the girl child, the need to take education serious. They will have a lot of festivals that we use. And then in the United States, we don't have something like a Derba. I check it, you don't have that term. But in Africa, there's a time that we have Derba where you see us on horseback, pageantry, and a lot of things that we do. So we have it twice. I'm sure within April we may have it. So I'll be there. You see me on horseback with a lot of people under me, telling them the right thing to do.
And Supervisor Miller has your contact information?
Yes. Everything that you want. I'm also a member of the Pinal County now, so anything that is needed from me, I'm ever ready to give it out. So it's welcome, and you're all welcome to Africa to come and see.
We're going to Africa soon, so we may take a detour.
Exactly. So when you come, I also try and make you see the Minister for Agriculture, and then my committee, as a member of the Ghana Cattle Ranching Committee, to tell you more from what we can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Natasha had said for information only, but can we discuss it a little bit like a work session? So, Supervisor Miller, I was involved with Sister Cities as well, and there's an organization that facilitates that, but does Ghana really have counties? Would this be county to a country instead? And, and usually they try to match up with common interests, which we already see that we have, but can you sister a whole country?
Chairman, I agree that those are some of the details that I need staff to dive into. My office has reached out to elect Juan Sistamonte, because he was involved in some international type programs through the state, and he said he was willing to help us and look at that. So there's a lot more detail that needs to come out, but we'll look at that and try and figure that all out. I think that's still worth exploring at this point in time.
And I think this also can lead to student exchanges also for the high school students that come as well.
I agree, and I think that I can reach out to the U of A's Agricultural College. I'm sure that they'll want to participate at some level there as well.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
So, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Levi. And Mr. Cruz, I'm sure wants to add something that I forgot.
Real quick, Vice Chairman Surdy, just to go to your point in the organization, I've reached out to the governor's office and also to the Arizona-Mexico Commission. To charter this type of activity is very similar to Sister City, and it can be done at a state level. We'll explore the intricacies because sister counties are not typical, but they do exist, and there are several in the country. So as soon as we get those details, the biggest thing is really it's just more of a type of a IGA type of agreement in terms of international trade and treaties. If there is any type of exchange along those lines, they'll be subject to any type of federal treaties and guidelines that are currently exist. But for the most part, a lot of it will be intergovernmental agreements, partnerships, stuff like that. And I'll be more than happy to send the information I've received so far to the clerk of the board to disseminate to the rest of the supervisors.
Okay. And one of the things we do is we're stewards of taxpayer dollars, and I would think that, Mr. Kavanaugh's he's probably going on your own dime. You're not going on the county. So we would be mindful of that if we do get into this. So thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 4, discussion, approval, disapproval of the Pinal County Board establishing Roberto Ravella's Civil Engagement Award set forth in the attached guidelines and further recognizing Mr. Roberto Ravelas for said Civil Engagement Award. And Kevin Kavanaugh, you brought this up. Do you want to go into this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as we discuss the possibility of limiting or eliminating or changing call to the public, it occurred to me that Mr. Ravelas, among other people, but most consistently I've noticed Mr. Ravelas here the last 2 years. And Teddy Roosevelt said, "The people who say that they have not time to attend politics are simply saying they are unfit to live in a free community." We were, most of us, 2 of us here at least, three, including Mr. McClure, were elected 2 years ago, and nearly every week, Mr. Ravelas has driven all the way from Gold Canyon, an hour-and-a-half round trip, to speak at Call to the Public for 3 minutes. A citizen who's so dedicated to regularly engage with local public officials against the odds of success with a board comprised of the opposite political party, but unfailing in his quest, should be recognized by this body. Equally important, perhaps and more important than the topic of his conversation, is that he exercises his First Amendment right regularly. Mr. Chairman, our First Amendment of the Constitution provides, among other things, that we have freedom of assembly and a right to petition government for redress of grievances. Mr. Ravelas exercises these rights as any citizen should. Mr. Ravelas is a member of the Democrat Party and comes to address the Board of Supervisors, all Republicans, holding our feet to the fire, pointing out where he thinks we or other public officials have gone wrong, or praising and appreciating us when we've done right. The burdens we see these days are so heavy that citizens are pointing toward each other as the problem. Democrat versus Republican, moderates against the extremes on either end. The problem always has been and always likely will be governments who benefit from a divided citizenry. But the solution is a citizen who engages with governments on all levels to reason with one another. Roberto Ravelas is 90 years old. He doesn't spend a lot of time on the golf course or in front of the TV so much as writing letters, going to meetings, and researching what government is doing and how to impact it. So I propose today we honor Roberto Ravelas, and in the future, not necessarily for what he says, but that he says it, for engaging to influence government through dialogue, research, and policy positions rather than momentary protests that seldom have lasting or meaningful positive effect. I propose we honor him today in a way for the way in which he engages in a statesman-like manner for the vast majority of his presentations, for his years of service to government as a congressional aide and elsewhere, and that we honor others in the future who carry the mantle of free speech and civic involvement in the years to come. By establishing this award for citizen engagement, we'll let the public know that we defend the rights of citizens to engage in free speech, that we welcome citizen input, as the burden of hearing is not so great as the burden overcome by citizens to present their thoughts at our meetings. I propose that we deliver this award annually at the first meeting of December each year, so that each member of the Board of Supervisors can recognize citizens of the county who, like Mr. Ravelas, engage in the important civic duty of interacting with government and carry on the uniquely American tradition of going toe-to-toe with government officials so that a representative government will endure. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll look for you to entertain discussions and motions. I've heard opposition to tying the name and whatnot.
So I believe we have a video queued up. Let's watch the video, and then we'll come back and we'll have that discussion.
You know, we talk about the American dream, but where is that dream for the elderly American? How do we thank the aged who have made it possible through their lifetime of hard work for us to enjoy the comforts that we do enjoy today? We are a society that does not care for its old. I went to a good facility in Globe recently, but too frequently we say thanks by ushering them into institutions that are halfway houses to the grave. We say thanks by failing to give them adequate medical care. We say thanks with a high cost of drugs and Social Security checks that pay less than welfare. Older folks living on fixed incomes must not bear the major burden of inflation. I say there's a debt to be paid, a settlement to be made with the older American.
Revelis. He's been there when people needed him.
So I believe that was a for when he ran for Congress way back when. Okay. So discussion, I'll lead it off. The person that called to the public made some points. I mean, to get on a postage stamp, to get on currency, it's pretty high standards in other. I mean, this award could have just as much meaning if it were just the Pinal County Civic Engagement Award instead of named after a person. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up. And also, every December, would there be 5 awards? Would every supervisor have a nominee, or would there be one award for the whole county? So those are my 2 subjects I would like to get out there. So who would like to comment?
My thought on this, Mr. Chairman, is that a Board of Supervisor member could bring forth one person or nobody. So up to 5, or if there was not someone who we thought worthy of the award and we had not observed that civic engagement, we would not be obligated to recommend anyone.
And you're looking at a Lifetime Achievement Award and not just what happened that year. Kind of like another thing that's hard to get into is the Hall of Fame. And if you dilute the Hall of Fame over any major sport, it just loses the. And so some years there are no Hall of Fame inductees. Others there are several. So anything else about?
Mr. Chairman, processing that last statement because I agree that's interesting. My personal opinion, Mr. Revelis, is worthy of some recognition. I've known him now for 9 years, or probably 10 years. I first met him in the foyer of the old Supervisors building after he opined on a topic which I think was tied to the sheriff at that time. But it's interesting how our friendship has evolved, and we both had a mutual friend that just passed away, which is unfortunate. But it shows how even though Mr. Revelis and I might be on opposite sides of issues or methodologies how to go forth, we certainly have found a common ground in so many things, and I respect him and cherish his friendship. I mean, he's a person that I can reach out to at any time. I can discuss matters, and I think he feels the same way with me. So, but for the 90 years that he's been here, and I don't know how many years involved in civic needs and trying to make our society better, he is certainly worthy of some type of recognition. How we form this is still for discussion. I kind of like your point. Maybe in a sense, it's like a Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily somebody every year, but certainly there are people that do deserve some recognition for what they've done in their years of trying to engage in governance.
Mr. Goodman.
You know, along the same lines, actually, when I first came on board 6 years ago, one of the first persons that I remember distinctively was Mr. Revelis, because he was here from day one and was here speaking to his feelings and his opinions about things, and I always felt like he was pretty respectful in what he had to say, even though we're on, and sometimes I didn't always agree with him. But the friend that you refer to happens, if it's who I'm thinking of, he's a Republican, and we've got a Democrat that actually engaged one another verbally over a lot of different things, and they were respectful to each other, and they respected one another in those engagements. And the individual that you're referring to was very, very conservative. And so, and again, those are some things that I think that we, and having this type of an award, or I don't know what you would call it, but recognition, not necessarily as an award, but recognition for their efforts and for the things that they do. I think it sends a message to all of our citizens out there. It's what you said earlier. You know, how, and that's the part that's always amazed me. And that troubles me. Is that so many people are angry because of the circumstances and the way that we're at, but they don't engage. They don't engage in a way, even on election day. When I look at the results of our elections and how many people actually showed up to vote based on our population across this country, is troublesome to me. And we need more individuals like Mr. Revelis that are willing to step out and take ridicule or to confront those type of things, because we do live in a country that allows free speech. We should always remember that on both sides of the aisle and not be harmful or ridicule in any ways other than the opinions of those people. I think this is a good award for Mr. Revelis. I do agree that we keep it the Civic Engagement Award. I think that's, and I think that we, and to your point, Supervisor Surdy, you know, when it talks about the Hall of Famers and those, you know, it's not every year that those individuals, and it does kind of minimize what that really is and what it is to us. And so I appreciate this is on our agenda for discussion as we move forward. And I couldn't think of anybody better to actually start this off with, this tradition, this thing, than Mr. Revelis himself, to be able to start that out, is this gentleman right here. For, you know, he looked pretty young back then, didn't he? He still does. And he doesn't look, you know, I often get confused in my age, and I probably look as old as you. And so, you look as young as me. Let's put it that way.
I think 90 is the new 70.
Amen. So anyway, those are my thoughts in regards to this particular. Thank you.
For further, my feeling here is that there's no doubt that Mr. Revelis deserves this award. The question is, do we name the award after him going forward, or do we just leave it more generic? Is that something that can be decided now? Chris Keller, have you looked at the wording of this? If we approve it, is that exactly what we're approving? Not that just today, but going forward.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, it's going to really depend on the motion that is made, how you will phrase this award. If the motion is made to just call it the Pinal County Civic Engagement Award, and that is what you vote on, then that is what it will be known as going forward. And Natasha can make those appropriate changes in the guidance documents, and it's really just a name change. Or if you decide to go forward with Mr. Revelis' name tied to that award, it's purely up to you how you decide and how you go forward with your motion at this point.
Thank you for that clarification. With that, is any more discussion? Then I will ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item number 4 as presented.
Is there a second?
Could
Not
I ask for
seeing.
clarification on that?
Yes.
When you make that motion, does that mean that this award moving forward will be named the Revelis Civic Award?
Until another board elects to change it, or you make a friendly amendment to change it right now.
Okay.
Is there a second as it sits, or is there a second with the friendly amendment?
I would do a second with a friendly amendment and remove Roberto Revelis from the award to make it more inclusive of the actual award. I certainly will entertain that Mr. Revelis be the recipient of this award going forward.
Understood. Natasha, is that clear?
Yes, Chairman, that is clear.
Okay, so I have heard a second, and I'll ask for a vote.
You got to vote on the amendment.
Okay, we have to
first.
Okay, vote on the amendment.
Yes, we should see if Supervisor Kavanaugh will accept that friendly amendment.
Yes, I'll accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. All in favor of that amendment? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have that. So now a vote on the actual item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it unanimously. So now we can give this award, and we have something, and we can go down and yes.
This is awarded to Roberto Revelis Civic Engagement 2022 Pinal County. It's a glass, what do you call it, with your 3D holographic picture. And I appreciate Mr. Revelis. I appreciate people who, in opposition, and the reason I got into politics is I got for a congressman, a Republican congressman, who chewed me out because he thought I was a member of the opposition. That's what sparked me to get into politics, exercising my First Amendment rights. This young man, we don't necessarily have to agree with sometimes or anytime, but the fact that he comes and dedicates himself so frequently to engaging with governments here and elsewhere is admirable. So that's what this is about. So I hope I don't have to say that again into this thing. So I appreciate him, and I want to present you with this and tell you that we appreciate you and thank you for your long service to the public.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to set this up on the counter here, and you want to give a little speech? Can you do that? I'll stand here with you. Go ahead. You want him to speak toward the crowd, or okay? Then use this one.
Thank you very much. This is totally unexpected. When I was sitting here a few meetings ago, and Supervisor Kavanaugh took the initiative, after hearing a longtime friend of mine during Call to the Public speak about his friend from Miami, Arizona, after a few more sentences, I realized he's talking about me. My civic awareness was framed by my growing up in Little Miami, Arizona, in a very diverse community where my social conscience was formed by the challenges I personally experienced. And I say it with no feelings of rancor. As a dark-skinned Mexican American, not a term I chose for myself, but a term that was imposed on me, could not go to my nearest neighborhood school because that was the American school. I was obligated to go to the Mexican school, where I graduated and where I found wonderful human beings as teachers. Most of them, their first teaching assignment out of State Teachers College, as Arizona State University was then named. And we'd stand, the first thing we do is pledge allegiance to this beautiful flag that represents this wonderful society we call home. But I took those challenges not as a victim, but as a survivor, because the teachers constantly told me, Bobby, as I was called then, dare to dream big dreams. I did. I still do. And I'm dreaming big dreams for my 11 grandchildren and their children, your grandchildren. So this is a beautiful occasion. It's a celebratory occasion for me. I'm very emotional. At age 90, I told my good friend Dave Coward, every time I hear somebody say something reflecting on my life's work, I told him recently, it almost sounds like an obituary, a eulogy, but it isn't. It's a recognition of what I hope your children, my children, and their grandchildren will carry on for this beautiful country of ours. So again, thank you very much to the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Kavanaugh in particular, because I did not ask for this recognition. It was offered to me, and I happily and gratefully accepted. Thank you.
Do you want to take a picture with all your friends? Yes, sir. So I know there's a number of friends and supporters of Mr. Reveles, and I think, can we just take a wrong direction here? Can we just take a picture? Can he get a picture with all his friends up here real quick, Mr. Chairman? Would that be okay? Yes. Just real quick? Okay, just so those...
I really didn't invite any friends, but...
We invited some.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Tom.
Hang on a second.
Yes, you need an award, sir. All right, I will take about 3 of them just to make sure we got everybody's Christmas. All right. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. And could I have like the supervisors as well?
And I was reminded that Roberto is also a very accomplished artist, too, on the side. So that was very inspiring. Presentation of certificates and services to employees. Leo.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Maybe we can get one of those pieces of art to hang up in one of our buildings here. We're privileged to honor 5 long-term employees here with the county. One of them is not going to be here today, so I'd like to honor her first. Cynthia Reyes. She works in the Casa Grande Justice Court, and she's been with us for 25 years as a Justice Court clerk. So thank you, Cynthia. And then 4 employees are here with us. First, I'd like to honor Raquel Medina, and she works in information technology. She's been with us for 20 years and is currently a software application developer. I know if Raquel and maybe Mr. Stanley wanted to come up and say anything.
It's not me, I promise.
So I just want to say congratulations to Raquel. She's been with the IT team for 20 years in capacity of roles. You were with GIS and now on the web development team. She played a huge role in getting the website to where it is today, and I'm sure you guys are all anxious to see that, and it looks a lot better. But Raquel also wants to speak, so I'll let her.
I just want to say that the county's been a great place to work. As a single mother raising 2 kids, I was able to, have no problems because of what the county has offered me. It allowed me to go back to school, get a degree, and do what I do now. So thank you.
Next, we have Chris Revor with the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, who's been with us for 20 years and is currently a detention officer.
Good morning, Supervisors. Matt Thomas, Chief Deputy for the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. And Chris is the consummate professional, and he's our gentle, quiet giant. But don't let the gentle part fool you, because he works in a rough place, and he does a damn fine job doing the things that we do in the jail there. So I'm glad he's being recognized. He's been a great employee, great friend, and just an asset to our agency and our county.
So, Leo, we'll have a group picture with everyone when they're through also.
Yep, 2 more, yes. Next, we have Celeste Utzi from the County Attorney's Office, has been with us for 25 years and is currently a legal assistant, a senior legal assistant.
Good morning, Vice Chairman and Supervisors. I'm David Rodriguez, Chief Deputy at the Pinal County Attorney's Office. And here I'm glad to be able to present to you Celeste Yautzi on her 25th year of service to Pinal County. She's a wonderful, dedicated employee. She's worked everything from misdemeanors to the most egregious felonies that we have. But her most important asset is that she makes everyone better where she's at. She's a really hard worker. She's very reliable. She has a positive attitude. And most of all, she volunteers to help everyone that needs it. And so I'm very thankful to be here and give this award to Celeste Yautzi.
Thank you, and I think I'm 1 for 3 so far in pronunciation, so thank you for that correction. And and this one, I might be 1 for 4. So next we have an employee who's been here 25 years, John, I hope it's Flummerfelt, with Community Development. Has been here 25 years, is currently a building inspector.
Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, it's with mixed emotions I stand before you today in that we celebrate the commitment that John has made to our department and the definite impressions that he's made in a very positive way for a very long time. Very professional individual and works very hard. Some things that folks might not know about John is he's a Master Code professional, the only Master Code professional that we have at Pinal County, and he has over 24 certifications from the International Code Council. It's a heavy heart because John has filed for retirement and is beginning his terminal leave. But Mr. James Allen, our building official, is his supervisor. He wanted to say a few words.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Jim Allen. I'm your building official for Pinal County. I've had an opportunity to work with John for over 16 years. He's been a mentor, a great person to work with. It hurts because he will be leaving. His knowledge, his customer service skills are unbeknownst. There's no comparative to that. So I will miss him. I appreciate what he's done for the county and for us. Thank you, John.
I do want to thank Pinal County for the career that I've had here. It's a wonderful chapter of my life, and I thank everybody that's been involved. Thank you.
And I want to mention by personal experience, customer service means so much in a job like this. If you come in with an attitude, you're going to get attitude back. And John just diffused any situation and made it pleasant to get inspections done. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and that's all the participants too.
Let's have a photo with everyone, please.
Done this before? All right. I'll do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3.
We're still on the county manager's report.
We are now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to take some time to celebrate and honor our county treasurer, Mr. Mike McCord, and Chief Deputy Treasurer Kelly Monroe. They have received some awards that really exemplify the values of the county that we embrace, and we'd like to ask them to come up and let us know what those are and why we received them.
Good morning, Vice Chairman, Board of Supervisors. I'm Mike McCord, your Pinal County Treasurer. In the last year, I served as the president for the Arizona Association of Counties, the elected officials' lobbying arm for the sheriffs and treasurers and all the other elected officials. One of the things that the Arizona Association of Counties does every year is recognize counties either through their summit awards, for innovation, public engagement, those type of things. And then they also have their merit award. In the last 2 years prior to this, we have won both the Summit and Merit Awards for the use of technology within the Treasurer's Office. But this year, we got the distinct honor of getting Innovation of the Year because of the way we have worked out the ability to accept taxes. I'm actually going to have Wiley, our IT director from the department, come up and give a little explanation as to what he did so that you all have a better understanding, the community has an understanding of how we're trying to engage in the tax collection process and make it a little bit easier of a process for our citizens.
Well, that was unexpected. I think the simplest way to explain that is to say we try to find ways to make it so that payments could be received safer, so that there's less physical contact. And in doing so, we found a way to make it so that we could supply payment kiosk stuff, to the actual county, partnering with our point-and-pay people, and we developed that in-house and deployed it over a year. And like I said, if I'd known I was going to be speaking, I would have actually thought up something a little more pithy, but more or less that's it. Thanks.
I didn't mean to put him on the spot. I know we as politicians love to hear ourselves talk, but really these type of things that happen across the county, the recognizing the last people that came up for all of their years of service, without people like Wiley and the ones that you've already recognized, it would be impossible for us to do our jobs. So a special thank you to that. I know our office got Innovation of the Year. It's hard to get the Lifetime Achievement Award to come up after that, but we appreciate the support that we get from the board, and we're very excited for the award that we received, and we'd love to have a picture with you and show off our award-winning Treasurer's Office.
I also want to mention that several years ago, one of the bigger counties in the state was trying to get our technology to emulate it, and that's how much of innovators we were.
Yes, and we have we just recently had our ACO conference, and we had several other counties express interest in wanting to have access to our treasurer's information and collection system that was created here in Pinal County almost 15 years ago now. But thanks to Wiley and our IT staff in the treasurer's office, we're constantly evolving. T-Rocks is what we call it. Back then it was 1.0, we're probably on 20.0 now with all the upgrades and things that we do on a consistent and ongoing basis to make the system run smoothly for us. So, thank you.
Picture. Still Leo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
How about a little update on the park? Is there a video coming out?
There will be a video coming out, and at the next manager's report, I think I'll play it here for you.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, we will have another meeting before the park officially opens on January 11th, correct? Yes.
Correct.
All right, so we'll go into it on that. Cool. Purchasing Division report, Tiara.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Tiara Peterson, your purchasing manager for Pinal County. This is your purchasing report for December 21st, 2022. First, the board is requested to approve the following contract amendment, RFP 201726 for printing and mailing of election materials We recommend approval of amendment number 3 to exercise the optional extension period from January 6, 2023 through January 5th, 2024 with Runbeck Election Services. This contract is used by the Elections Department and Recorder's Office. And then finally, the board is requested to approve the following purchase. Requisition 166279 with Mutual Link in the amount of $1,800,000 for an expansion of the HTE interoperability and school safety program. This was used by the Sheriff's Office. And that concludes your Purchasing Division report for December 21st, 2022.
Are there any questions? I don't see any, so I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the Purchasing Division report as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Can we have a voice vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Presentation on December 8th, Pinal County Workforce Development Board was the recipient of a Local Board Impact Award by Workforce Arizona. And who was going to present on this? Liz Harris and Harold Christ. And more pictures to follow.
More cameras are great. Right, yes, indeed. So, good morning, gentlemen. And I didn't realize this was Award Wednesday, but obviously it is. So we're very proud of the award that we have received, and we want you all to know about it because it wouldn't have happened without you. Basically, it's really a dual award, if you will, but we're going to keep the award. We're just going to tell you about it and show you. So on December 8th, the Arizona Workforce Council held their annual meeting in Buckeye, and they gave out several awards, and the one that we received is called the Local Board Impact Award. And the reason that we got this is because you remember in October, we all were at a joint session. You very graciously gave us your ideas and your hopes for the future concerning workforce. And it was a very great event. We heard all kinds of accolades from the people who attended. So this is an award that was given in competition, so to speak, of all the workforce boards in the state of Arizona. So we're very proud to have received it. And Harold's going to talk a little bit more about and show you the award. We met in Buckeye, and if you haven't been to Buckeye lately, it's a long ways from here. I felt I was in California by the time I got there. But there was 155 people attended that meeting. There's 12 different Arizona workforce groups scattered around the state. And there were only 4 awards that were given. And we think that's speaks very highly not only of what you all have empowered this board to do, but also what James Smith has done from the economic development standpoint and what Joel Millman has done as well to make this happen. You have a group of staff that is amazing. They're recognized all over the state. When Joel's name is mentioned, everybody listens because he's the one who's creating so much of the things that are happening with Arizona workforce now. And with you all continuing to bring so much into the county, the workforce side is a key element in all of these companies coming in here and asking for training and for the different things that they need in their lines of endeavor and lines of work. So that's our job to try to do that on your behalf. So I'd just like to read real quick the award. This is a Certificate of Achievement Award, Local Board Impact, Pinal County Workforce Development Board, in appreciation for your significance, impact, and Pinal County towards building skills, abilities of Arizonans to meet the workforce needs of employers. So we're very proud to present this to you, but as
Liz said, we're really going to keep it, unless you want to hang it right up here. But we're really proud that you allow us to do this for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's have another photo.
Yep.
Sorry. There we go. And we do two more. 1, 2, 3. And one more. Thank you.
So it's been a busy morning, and there's going to be a couple things pulled from consent. So this would be a good time to have an 8 or 10 minute recess. Public wants to pull something, and from earlier, we want to pull item AM. And I want to pull item F. Are there any others?
I'd like to pull O.
And I'd like to pull AD and AE.
Okay, Mr. Kavanaugh?
I'm good.
Anyone from the public? Okay. So these motions are always confusing, so do we have a motion with those being pulled?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent item as presented, with the exception of pulling item F, item AM, item O, item AB as Alpha Bravo, and AE Alpha Echo.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's okay. So the first pulled item is AM. And we could use your name and address, please.
I'm Betty Kay. Betty Kay. My address is Gold Canyon, Arizona. I'm a friend of Roberto. I'm here because of Roberto, because he's drawn me in. And I didn't want the AM to be withdrawn because I'm very much in favor of it, and I wanted to speak to that. It's a grant from the Arizona Supreme Court to improve supervision and rehabilitative services for probationers. And I think that helping probationers is going to improve the possibility of all of former incarcerated people will become productive members of society. And it will reduce the number of returned prisoners, the number who return to prison because of other transgressions. In addition to that, I would like to see the prison population reduced. I think this will help. I would like to see training and education for both prisoners and probationers. And two other points which really aren't part of this item is that when people do finish their probation, I'm very much in favor of letting them have their voting rights restored. And the other thing is I want to thank County Attorney Kent Volkmer for his efforts to strengthen the programs like this,
to aid the transition from incarceration and to treat offenders with respect and dignity. So I really appreciate what Kent has done in his office. So I do want this to pass.
Yep.
And thank you very much.
So yeah, there's no need to apologize. By pulling something, you're just highlighting it and emphasizing it and gets a little more extra discussion. So that's a good thing. So anyone else want to speak on this? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve item number AM as presented.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have it. Item number F is for one of my appointments for one of my boards. And these appointments, a lot of times you don't even know they're made, but it's a thankless job, and you've got to come down here and a lot of times spend all day. And that's Lisa Bradford, who is very engaged in District 5. So I appreciate her coming and taking that, and she did not come, so we'll get her certificate to her. So would anyone make a motion to approve her?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number F as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have that one. And I neglected to write down those other ones that were pulled. Does anyone have those? Can they?
D. David.
Yes.
Alpha Bravo, Alpha Echo.
Okay, so the first one is? Oh.
Sorry.
Who pulled that, and why do you want to discuss it?
Mr. Chairman, I pulled it, and I mostly I want to recognize the folks from Randolph. If you would all stand, let you see. These folks, we've kind of taken Randolph under our wing and trying to find different funding to better their community. And I want to thank Carl from Senator Kelly's office for participating. Please stand up, Carl. Miss Jackson, stand up. You're part of this thing. Thank you all, yes. And Bernadine, you stand up as well. So this is the team down there in Randolph. We're trying to get them some infrastructure put in down there. And Mike Cruz, you stand up now. This is the guy that wrote this colonial application. So this resolution will help us in the future for funding is the goal of passing this. So we're very happy about that. And I don't know if anybody from Randolph would like to speak, if I may. Mr. Chairman, allow anybody that might want to speak to it. Can Kyle? Your name?
My name is Kyle Muldrow. I live at 3780 North King Street in historical Randolph, Arizona.
There you go.
Fourth generation with my mom's side, third generation with my dad. All we ask for Randolph is just treat us fair. I mean, Mr. Kavanaugh opened the door to some things, and I appreciate what you've done. That story he told earlier about the roof getting fixed by Mr. Miller, that was actually my aunt's house. Mr. Miller, thank you for knocking that door down. Can't say enough appreciation of what you and Mr. Cruz are doing for us. We really appreciate what you guys are doing. Just ask that, just treat us fairly too. Sure. We've been there since 1925. My people been there since 1936. My people came and, we pay taxes and everything and stuff too. We just want to be treated fair like everyone else. I mean, everybody know we're battling SRP and stuff like that, but it is what it is. But some good things have come out of that with SRP too. So I'm not knocking them, but some good things have come out of that. We just want to be treated fairly and preserve our little community, what's left of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. And I agree. I think it's worthy of some recognition there. So unless there's any questions of my colleagues.
If none, then
I think Mr.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Mr. Miller may know, I know a couple of years ago the county was examining sidewalks and fire hydrants. And where's that? And how will this designation help to bring other improvements? What's the scoop?
Well, the county has done a design concept report. I think we're pretty close to having that finalized. I don't know if Joe Ortiz has a. I told him I didn't think I'd need him, but maybe I do need him for a little more of a detailed update. But we have a design report done, and I know we're working very close. I believe Arizona Water has their system all designed and ready to go. It's just all a matter of funding. And the idea of this colonial status will open up other grant opportunities in the future. But we do have some CDBG stuff going on. And Celeste, can you give us more detail on that?
Sure. Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Celeste Garza with Public Works. The Public Works Department has a design concept report development underway. We have some water line infrastructure, fire hydrants within the design process now. They're at about 30%. They're in for review with the Arizona Water Company. They'll soon be moving forward. That'll be the initial phase of construction, is getting those water infrastructures put in. Subsequent to that is going to be, like Supervisor Miller mentioned, a CBDG grant to put in some sidewalk improvements. And then following that will be the infrastructure and roadway improvements after that, once we finalize negotiations with the SRP community.
Yeah. I hope that answers your questions. Yep. We've done a community cleanup out there. We're getting some signage and some little things right now, but more to come. And
definitely. It's going to
Can't thank staff enough, and I can't thank the community for bearing with us to get through the government's wheels don't turn real fast all the time, but we're making progress.
We are. A lot of progress within the next year will be happening in the community.
Excited about that.
It has to start somewhere.
Yep.
Is there a motion on that item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve item O as presented.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one passes. And the next item that got pulled?
AB.
B. And who pulled that one?
I did. So actually, I'd like to, there's actually AD and AE, I'd like to just speak to both of those just real quick, just to more of just bringing out the intention. There was a comment that was made earlier about some of our roadways and things out in the Santan Valley area, and a lot of those things. This AD pertains to a grant or some monies that we acquired through the state of Arizona to help buy right-of-ways for the extension of the 24, not to mention part of what is going to be the extension of the north-south. We call it an expressway, not the north-south freeway, but an expressway along the canal. And in addition to that, we've been working a lot with the developers to do that. On AE, where the dollars are coming from to help pay for this particular improvement that has been needed for some time is from that 50 cent sales tax, along with her funds and things of that nature. But I think it's important that our public knows where some of their tax dollars are going. And this particular road right here, Kenworthy, and the crossing of that wash is going to help relieve some of the pressures that we currently have on Ironwood or Gansel and even the Schneff Road. And so this is going to help relieve, and when there's accidents, it's always very difficult to get around. And so these are the two items I really wanted to emphasize. And we're going to be holding some town hall meetings to kind of update everybody on some of the roadways and things that are going to be taking place within that region. So I just, and I noticed nobody's even here, the ones that brought up those comments earlier. And so that's why I think it's important but we need to let the public know what these dollars, where they're coming from and how they're being used. So thank you.
Yeah, great to discuss that. Can we have a motion on those two items together then, since you lumped them together?
Chairman?
Yes.
Before we take that motion, the original motion for the consent agenda was A, B as in Bravo.
Oh,
okay.
Which was pulled. So if we can reconsider the consent agenda, because we did not pull A, D. We pulled A, B.
So I spoke out of turn.
Okay. So how do we reconsider that? We have to have a new motion?
Yes, Chairman.
And pull all of those again?
So,
No,
but
just
we need to vote. We still need to vote on AB, correct?
That is correct.
But let's have the first motion to pull it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we pull item AD.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've now pulled it. We've already discussed it.
Okay, so now I can make a motion to approve item AB,
Yes.
AD, and AE.
Yes.
A Bravo, A Dog.
You need head nodding from Natasha, not me.
All right, so I'm good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. Was that all of them?
Yes,
I
Chairman.
think so.
Okay, so now we're going to recess the regular meeting and go into flood control meeting. And this is Leo, who takes that one? Is that Chris or Andrew?
Yeah, depending on, are
consent.
there any outside of consent, or are they all on?
Or do we just go right to the consent agenda? Do we have a motion on that consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the consent items A through E for the Pinal County Flood Control District.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Recess that one, go into public health. Is there any discussion on any of it? If not, I'll ask for a motion on the consent from public health.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items A, B, and C on the Pinal County Public Health Services District as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the ayes have that. And we'll go back to our regular meeting. Already in progress. So that would be item 12, is that correct?
Chairman, we will be presenting on items 12 and 13 together.
Okay. Public 12 is public hearing, discussion, approval, or disapproval of ordinance number 2022-PZ-033-22. And who will be presenting on that?
My name's Ryan Green, sir.
Okay, cool. Let's go.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. My name is Ryan Green. I'll be presenting case PZ 033-22 and PZPD 025-22. This case is the Desert Gardens PAD. It is a residential development totaling 692 units with a density of 3.0 dwelling units per acre. Okay, the first proposal, the PZ 033, is a rezoning of the site, which is 226 acres in total, from GR and SR to single residence R7. The next case, PZPD 025, is requesting the overlay of Desert Gardens. The subject site is located on the north side of Miller Road, the south side of Teal Road, and on both sides of Warren Road near Maricopa, Arizona. The applicants are Stanfield Warren LLC and Warren Road 187 LLC. The agent is Cohen Van Loo Consultants, Julie Vermillion, and I've been informed today also Jordan Rose. All right, looking at our county map, we can see this site is located in the western part of the county, with the closest municipality being Maricopa, Arizona. The vicinity map shows the surrounding zoning, with the site highlighted in red. The east part of it is mostly CR3, west part is GR, south of it is state land, which is also zone GR, and the overall other zonings. Here, looking at our aerial map, the area is highlighted in yellow, and we can see the overall rural nature of the area. Zoomed into our area map, we can see how the property is juxtaposed from the north with already existing lots. To the east of it, that whitish part is the canal. East of that canal is CR3, again, south is state land, and west is GR. Now we're looking at our comprehensive plan map. The area highlighted in yellow, which the site is completely highlighted in yellow, is moderate low density residential, meaning 1 to 3.5 dwelling units per acre. And I want to take this moment to highlight the adjacent surrounding area is highlighted in tan, and that is very low density residential, meaning 0 to 1 dwelling units per acre. Meaning if they were each to be rezoned, they would have to go to a different zone. There are different densities per the comprehensive plan. And the current zoning map, we look a bit close. You can see most of it's GR with roughly 3 parcels as SR, and the surrounding sites being CR3, SR, and GR. Here we are looking north on Warren Road. Now south on Warren Road, east onto the site, and also west onto the site. Subject site details. Proposed is a single-family subdivision. The development has a density that correlates to 3.06 dwelling units per acre. The lot sizes range from 5,400 square feet to 1 acre. The development standards are, they're proposing a 2,000 square foot reduction in the R7 area, a 5-foot minimum lot width reduction, and front setbacks of 10 feet that's measured from the front of the garage with allowing for architectural projections up to 2 feet. A size setback reduction for 5 feet, a minimum rear setback reduction of 10 feet, and a maximum building height being the same with allowing, again, for architectural projections. Here we have the overall site plan. Most of the lots are indeed that 5,400 square feet, but I want to take this moment to where if you see at the north how it juts down into it, the existing residence, the applicant is proposing 1 acre lots to border that entire protrusion into it, and it also further goes down to half-acre lots into the overall development. Open space and recreation. The connected pedestrian trail ties into the county's proposed multi-use trail that goes along the canal. And if you look at this map again, highlighted in red is that trail. As you can see, near the canal, it's proposing an entrance there that goes throughout the entire community. They are also proposing 1 community park and 7 pocket parks. Here's that community park in question. To the west side of it, they're proposing a volleyball court with a shade ramada. Then coming along east, they have a pedestrian trail. And on the east side of it, they have 2 play areas for children aged 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, with also a half basketball court, a ramada, an open turf area, and plenty of landscaping. Comprehensive plan compliance. The development has a density of 3.06 dwelling units per acre and is within the range for moderate low density residential. They're also proposing a connection to the county proposed multi-use trail, and they're providing ample open space. Items for board consideration is adherence to the comprehensive plan. This proposal will also add 692 single-family units to the housing stock. And also what needs to be considered is resident opposition. When I made this PowerPoint, staff received 5 letters, but we've also received letters that have been formalized, signed by landowners surrounding the area. That's important to note. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval for both cases 5 to 1. No stipulation for the zoning and 15 stipulations for the PAD overlay. Any questions for staff?
When you say it's near Maricopa, how near is it?
From what I understand, 14 miles.
So it's not really near. That's pretty far.
Next to it.
Yeah.
Fair.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? I have some questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you received letters, and do those letters comprise opposition? I think 20% of the adjacent residents, or whatever the rule is, I forget now, that it would require a 4/5 majority vote, or that didn't trigger?
No, sir, we did not meet that threshold.
Okay. And, you know, the folks in the area are concerned about a number of things.
Yes, sir.
And I'm reading from one of their letters, and perhaps the presenters from the developer are prepared to answer some of the questions. And if you think we ought to defer to them, you just let me know. But the residents prefer to keep the zoning as it is today, and we process a lot of these zoning cases, and folks oppose the zoning. Is there any part of this that's outside regular zoning regulations and rules, or did we follow the process to the T?
We followed the process.
Okay. And did you discuss or did you look at the traffic volume? And has the developer addressed the traffic?
I did not go into detail about the TIA, but Public Works gave me the green light. It was okay. And the applicant also has to install road improvements along Warren Road.
Okay, so traffic engineering has done a traffic count, and the improvements that are going to be done by the developer meet the requirements that traffic engineering put forth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we're going to have a public comment period on this, Mr.
We
Chairman?
are, yes.
Okay.
And that way we can have the representation comment on any public comment as well.
Okay.
If we want to go into that now.
Very good. Thank you. Nice presentation.
So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to
Chairman?
speak on this?
Did we want to do the applicant's presentation first?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then
Thank you. Chair Surdy, members of the board, for your records, I'm Jordan Rose with Rose Law Group, and with me today is Julie Vermillion from CVL, who's the engineer. And most importantly, I'm very honored to have to be able to represent this client, Kevin Peterson. I think most of you guys have known him. He's done some great projects throughout the last many decades. So Kevin's here with his family. And Peter Furlow in my office. So thanks for that. I will just do a very brief presentation, but basically wanted to say, I think this is exactly the type of process that developers should do with neighbors. So as soon as Kevin tied up this property and decided that he would move forward, he didn't just go down to the site. He went down to the site and cooked them a pancake breakfast. I mean, he took his chuck wagon and he went down there, and he really wanted to get to know the neighbors. They had told him some of the things that they wanted, and then he gave those to them, and I'll show you what those are. And then he was very surprised and disappointed, frankly, to see that some of them showed up at the Planning Commission hearing to oppose, although the Planning Commission ultimately approved. But let me show you, and these are some of the great projects that Kevin has done throughout the county, and I'm just going to flip through here because our planner did such a great, tremendous job. This project meets the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan was changed in order for development to be at this site. And in 2006, Global Utilities signed an agreement for this site to serve this site. So they had planned for this for growth for I don't even know, I can't do math quickly, but since 2006. And so when anyone who lives in this area would look at county plans, they could very much see that this was designated to have a higher density from up to 3.5 units per acre. And actually, this comes in lower at 3 units per acre. So here are the things that Kevin did. One is he kept 29% as open space. That's 29%, which is a big amount compared to most projects that you see. In addition, you can see, and I'm not, there we go. Okay. You can see these neighbors here asked for a couple things. One was, can we have a restriction so that you can only build single-story homes along the border of our properties? And as you know, right now, if Kevin didn't do this project, he could go out and build 2-story homes, just like they may have 2-story homes. But he agreed to restrict those lots around that perimeter to single-story. And then they also said, hey, can you make those lower density? And so those are actually 1-acre lots that ring the property, which is really, I think, much different than what you've seen in the past, or at least anything I've seen. And he did that in order for them to feel, more of a rural character. The other thing is if he went out and developed the property right now, he could have driveways access to all these lots. There could be lots of traffic. There could be cut-through traffic. And that's no longer going to occur because he's going to have his perimeter wall. So that changed. And then the final thing is there's a lot of sheet flow in this area. I'm sure some of you have been out there and have seen this, but this property and this project will certainly correct a lot of that. So I think the planner talked about the amenities and all of those things. Here's the global agreement since 2006. So in a county and in a state where we have water issues, where you have a water provider that's locked in, where you have the ability to serve water to homes, that I think I believe those are the places that you want growth to occur, and that's where it was planned to occur. So this has been in place for quite some time. I would save any time for questions now or after you hear from any community members, and we're happy to continue to work with them. Kevin and his family have been great at working with communities for years and years, and they certainly don't intend to stop now. So thank you, supervisors, for your time.
Does the board have any questions right now?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Rose, you said on this slide, there's the arrow points that the tip of the arrow is where that wall is going to go. And there's a black dot. If this were not developed in this way, is the street that folks would use where that black dot is?
Chair and Supervisor Kavanaugh, let me just look at my engineer to make sure I'm going to tell you that is correct. Okay, yes, that is correct.
So some people who built on those lots, if it were not within this, would use that dirt road?
That's correct, Supervisor.
All right, thank you.
They would not use the dirt road? That's the stop of the cut-through traffic. If it was developed, yeah. Yes, if it wasn't developed like this.
I have no more questions right now.
Okay. She can come back up if any people have questions. So this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue? Okay. And we'll need the name and general address.
Good morning. I'm Greta Mills. I live on Lacey Trail. Lacey Trail is a private road. It is not a public road. I'm sure you all, like I did your careful homework when choosing your home. Our home is chosen because it's a rural acreage surrounded by zoning that would keep it a rural area. Mr. Peterson and his group maybe should have done their homework a little bit better. This property was in discussion way back. We were there, and it was not approved for development at that time. So we would like to see our rural areas kept rural. We are there for a reason. We appreciate the dark skies. We appreciate the open spaces. Those are not substituted by pocket parks. We have an equestrian area. We'd like to see it kept an equestrian area. This is not consistent with high-density homes on small lots of a little over 5,000 square feet, which is actually less than the minimum of 7,000 square feet, I believe. We don't want 692 homes right next door to our home, which is going to mean 2,000 plus more vehicles, increased traffic congestion. You all know what Hunt Highway is like. If you've been down on Papago, just imagine what the current developments now on Papago, and add into it more high density further south, and getting out to Papago and 347 getting into Maricopa will be even more of a nightmare than it is now. And that's just getting to Maricopa, not including getting on up into the city from there. Jordan Rose, Miss Rose spoke about water. We in our area have experienced times when the well levels drop and the well shuts off. That's not adequate groundwater. There's also times, like October 15th, when we had our most recent storm, when we received over an inch of rain, 2 feet of water breached the vehicle wash, came across Warren Road, across the properties there, into our neighbor and into our property. So that's vehicle wash doing what vehicle wash does. So that's a serious water issue on the top, not to mention lack of water underneath. Please vote against this zoning modification. I believe in our area there is ample room for 1 acre properties, which would be consistent with current zoning. 1 acre equestrian properties that would continue to show our Pinal values of agriculture and livestock like we've been hearing about so much already this morning. So with that, I would just ask you to please do not approve these zoning modifications. It is not in compliance with the neighborhood. It's inaccurate that was not 20% of the neighbors. You can see from there's 6 homes. We have more than 6 letters. That's more than 20%. Thank you.
Michael Mills.
Michael Mills, also on Lacey Trail, the adjacent property. I've got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to talk really, really fast. Number one, we do have 100% opposition. Unfortunately, I believe Mr. Ryan is incorrect. If you look at the 300-foot perimeter, we have 100% opposition to this particular project. Secondly, I'm going to go through some of the stuff I've already given and presented in letter. Some stuff I'm not. I'm going to add a few extra things. Desert Gardens is not compliant with multiple components of the state of Pinal County vision. I won't go into those, but I'll entertain speaking to those in question if need be. We have attempted multiple times to work with Mr. Peterson to lower the densities. He has not been willing to do that. I do not know exactly why. I would propose to the board that your vote, your decision should not bail out a bad business decision on the part of Mr. Peterson. We look to you folks, the Board of Supervisors, as stewards of sustainability. As my wife mentioned just a minute ago, we have severe water issues out there. When the review was done in 2006, that's been coming up on 20 years ago. A lot has changed in that period of time, and currently we've been in a multi-decade drought. And as a result, we do have water issues out there. The additional homes added into this particular area could potentially jeopardize our water to the point where we would lose our wells and we would lose our property rights and our water availability. ADWR has put a moratorium on drilling wells, and there's a reason why. Because currently the true condition of those aquifers is not understood. University of Arizona also published a documented statement, and I quote, "Groundwater resources are important to Arizona, but are being depleted because the pumping exceeds the rate at which natural recharge replenishment happens." And because of that, we have major problems there. We have a big concern about effluents, how they're going to manage effluents going under the canal, pumping it back. We don't have a clear project understanding on that. We've got conflicts of roadway right-of-ways. We've got traffic problems, significant problems, not just at the property, but you think about the backup of the other developments that are approved on Papago, what that's going to do to us as far as backup getting into town. I won't go into that again. We've heard about flood control. We've got 2 endangered species on this property. Nobody has addressed how we're going to deal with the Endangered Species and the Federal Act and what's going to happen there. We've got light pollution problems, and we would like to see all 15 of these stipulations satisfied before any rezoning is approved. There's a lot of questions as far as the traffic studies. There's questions on volume and the assumptions, and we would just request that you would not approve this. We treasure our rural lifestyle. We're trying to protect this rural lifestyle, and we appreciate your consideration in this. Thank you very much.
Robin Davis.
Good morning, gentlemen. I am Robin Davis. I don't know if I can beat what they've got to say, but I will let you know what I have to say. I live on Warren Road, about 2 or 3 miles south of this development, and I come to you to oppose the rezoning of the property in items 12 and 13. I understand that this particular area is designated for rezoning according to the comprehensive map. But if you were to visit this area, you would see that this is the heart of Hidden Valley and surrounded by ranches, dairies, and open land. This is still a rural area with horses and livestock, and people ride their horses in that area every day. This parcel is a small island centered in a larger area that is designated for 1 acre minimum. This zoning amendment doesn't make sense nor fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. And I don't know if I mentioned I live on 1 home per 2.5 acres, and I don't think that's enough. Okay, so the development's 226, 228 acres, 3 to 4 homes per acre. I've adjusted my total 692 units, 1,384 more cars. That area cannot handle the traffic. Adding almost 2,000 more cars for Warren and Papago make it a deadly drive. And that's not taking into consideration the development that is already in progress on Papago, and then that one that we spoke about, the Veneta project, and they're going to add another 1,000 cars. So according to my colleagues, this particular landowner doesn't wish to really negotiate. He may have held a pancake breakfast, and that was all fine and dandy. But there would be no problem if he changed the density to 1 home per 1 acre, as is consistent with the area around it. They want to push this high-density housing because more homes equal more money. And that reminds me of something I read, Ecclesiastes 5:10. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. So when is the dollar more important than the neighbors who already live out there and treasure their rural way of life? We are often told that it is the right of the landowner to do as they wish with their property, but when are the rights of those that are already living out there considered? Again, I understand it's about the comprehensive plan that is already in place, and the residents are working on this issue, but for now, this zoning isn't the type of development that we want in Hidden Valley. We don't have any brick walls. We don't have compressed housing. At this time, and in closing, I ask that the board grant us a continuance, if not totally oppose and reject this zoning amendment. We would like 180 days to give the residents time to regroup and seek consultation with the proper people on how to proceed. That may seem like a long time, but this is not our day job. We are only residents with full-time jobs or retired seniors trying to fight big developer for our lifestyle that is being threatened. We have no budget, we have no money, we have no fancy lawyers. We are just asking for time. So please grant us a continuance.
Thank you. Gary Metivier.
Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Gary Metivier. I live in the Papago Buttes Ranchos number 2. which is about maybe 2.5 to 3 miles around the corner from where these folks are. I live right off Papago Road. I'm here to start off to ask you to please postpone the decision on the zoning change until some of the things that may not have been, others will address following me concerning water issues, flooding, traffic, and everything else. Supervisor Kavanaugh recently had a meeting with the residents in the area at which he indicated that he might be willing to place or ask to have placed on the agenda an item to work on the notification process for these pads. The state says 600 feet. Pinal County gives you 1,200. In these rural areas, the density is so low that people aren't getting notified. I mean, not getting notified. There's a recent pad that was approved at Lewis Johnson Road, 347. No one lives within 1,200 feet of that. Yet these big pads like this are definitely going to have an impact in the rural areas where we live. As others have stated, we treasure this open lifestyle. I know you guys are tired of hearing this, but we're here to ask you to have our backs, at least in part, and understand that the lifestyle of some of us that live for 30 or 40 years in this area is going to be seriously impacted when high-density developments of this nature are placed in the area. So, Senator, if I may address Mr. Kavanaugh, please put that on the item as an agenda to look into widening the area of notification so that maybe a quarter mile is nothing. That's 1,200. That's a little over 1,200 feet. So if you could do things like in a low-density area such as we have out here, say within a 5-mile radius, all the property owners would have to be notified. What happens is they have these local meetings, but nobody shows up. The development is currently going on Papago, for instance. That one, if you looked at the list of the people who were notified, they're all land developers. In fact, they sent over 100 letters to folks in Canada who had a parcel of land there, and yet only notified one resident in the area who happened to live on the corner of Amarillo and Papago. One person. And yet, thank you very much for your time.
Tracy DeCenzi.
Good afternoon, members of the board, supervisors. Thank you for hearing me. So I'm Tracy DeCenzi. My address is 52503 West Lacey Trail. Their property is southeast of my property. And our family moved there to live in an open rural lifestyle, to raise my children there, to raise my livestock. And I want the community we live in has like-minded people. You go milk your goats, you create, make your own cheese, you collect your own eggs. And a community like this surrounding us does not support the lifestyle we choose to live out there. And the developer did talk to us, and I applaud him for listening to our comments. And we don't deny that he came out with his family and was open-minded, and he said he lived on 11 acres and understood that they developed land around him. Again, we all don't have 11 acres. I wish I could afford 11 acres because that would push them further away from us. But so I just want you to know that you guys are protecting our property values and our rights. If you approve a parcel like this, how do we stay protected? Because again, you've heard about the roads and you've heard about the congestion. My son was on his motorcycle turning onto our street and was hit by someone who went around him, turning on our street. I mean, literally, he was turning left on our street, and they went left around him. So, I mean, and that was even before all this other houses built out there. And thank God he's fine. His helmet saved his life. But you guys haven't lived out there, and I welcome them to come out there and camp out there for a week and see what adding 600 more houses out there and 1,200 more people out there. You know, another thing is, where are the children going to go to school? Our schools out there can't support this. They're all in MUSD district borders, and MUSD can't house these kids. I teach kindergarten. I have 27 kindergartners in my class. We have 4 kindergarten classes at my school, and we're just oversaturated with people out there. I think this community would be amazing somewhere else, not in the rural area we live. I ask you to oppose this rezoning. Thank you.
Tanya Smith.
Hey, I'm Tanya Smith of 52631 West Lacey Trail. I'm one of those 6 residents. I'm opposed to the zoning. We're rural. We have horses. Having a high-density development behind it isn't conducive to a rural with horses, with farm animals. I believe the quality of life will deteriorate with the light, the sound, the air pollution for all residents of Hidden Valley. Please do not let your short-term goals of the county overshadow the long-term rural lifestyle Pinal County residents and Hidden Valley residents have. I ask for it to be not rezoned to high density.
Ken Lepper.
Good morning. Thank you for listening to what we have to say. This way we'll try to get within the 3-minute limit. We ask the board to reject the applicant's request to rezone Dead and Garden from R to R7 at 3 dwelling units per acre. Note that R7 is 1 to 3. Why is it we're always speaking to high density? Why are we approving those? It's destructive to the surrounding property owners' rights and lifestyle. This is not progress. It's an invasion. The board and county is on record as being concerned with respecting applicants' property rights. What about the rights of the surrounding owners? These need to have equitable representation and consideration. For the Thunderbird Farms and Hidden Valley area, which, by the way, is only a couple of miles north of this development, 600 to 1,200-foot notification of zoning change is woefully inadequate, and Supervisor Kavanaugh has already noted that. Desert gardens and similar high-density developments have negative effects on residents far beyond 1,200 feet. If you take a look at the traffic flow, if you pay attention to what's going on, they will have effects very far and wide in that community, Thunderbird Farms, even Tersana and Veneta, which are being developed right now as high density. ADWR reaffirmed that there's not enough water in the aquifers to meet the 100-year certifications. Who cares about 100 years? But when will increased groundwater withdrawals lead to large-scale disruption for current property owners? We don't have to wait 100 years. Hundreds of current wells affecting thousands of people, farmers, and livestock could run dry due to dropping groundwater levels. As you've noted, this has already happened. The long-term effect is that water rights of current residents and farmers are disrupted in favor of progress, and large water companies expand their control over large private water companies, over critical resource. Rights are taken away. One size does not fit all. The comprehensive plan and what we're looking at right now, we need a better and updated plan. Award-winning developments like Woodlands, Texas, for example, continues to be viable and profitable, for example. That's a great example of how you can set aside areas and everybody gets a chance to win. We don't want, as Gina, I think, pointed out, early Pinal County planning was to make the county a desirable destination, not another Phoenix and Valley of the Sun. What happened to that? Though the water source supply stipulations by staff and inflation will most likely prevent immediate development, the risks and the potential damage remain if this is passed. Let's take time together to design and zone a better and more equitable solution than the current whack-a-mole that we have today. The DG-PAD narrative says very clearly the proposal clusters development to protect open space but does not relate to the protection of agricultural or equestrian use. 8 or 9 years ago, Pinal County responded to residents' complaints in regards to other residents renting RV hookups for prisoners from the north. Why doesn't the county do something about it, they said? The property owners responded it was their land and they could do with it what they wanted. The county responded, we heard you. We've passed regulations to limit these types of land. Reasons given included protection of the environment and rural lifestyle. If those were good reasons then, why are they not today?
Need you to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all the cards I have. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this issue? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing, have Jordan Rose respond to some of those. I have a couple questions as well.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and members of the board and neighbors. Thanks for your comments. A couple of comments that may be helpful to the neighbors. One is we will be required to improve the roads, so the situation in the area on the roadways will be far better than they are today, which could be helpful. The second thing was, I think Mr. Mills asked that we, show compliance with those 15 really important stipulations that your staff has put in the case, and in fact we will, and hopefully he can understand also that those stipulations are a requirement. That's what happens if the case is passed. And then third, in terms of the water situation, we're served by global utilities. If the neighbors want to have a conversation with global utilities and potentially see if there's any way that they could also transfer from their wells to the utility because of this coming in, I don't know if that can happen or can't happen, but we are more than happy to put that meeting together and try to help that situation. I know that one of the neighbors runs an organization called Environmental Concerns Organization, and we talked about what the site could be, and the comment was, if it's not 5 lots or 1 to the acre, we're not going to be in favor of this, which is unfortunate because in 2019, the county, through a lot of public discussion, did pass a comprehensive plan. The voters voted on that in 2020. That this property would be of a little bit of a higher density. I mean, we're talking 3 units to the acre, which I know is a lot higher than what they're used to, but that was passed. And in 2006, Global and this development agreed to work together and to provide water. So it has been no secret in that area that this particular property, there are other properties that aren't comprehensive planned for growth, but this has been since 2019. And then finally, I wanted to say, this project, we started the conversation on October 9th, 2021 with the neighborhood meeting. So over a year ago, that started. And there's been a group chat between the neighbors for over a year. So I don't think that the time to organize or what have you and try to gather more support is necessary. It's been 14 months since this conversation has happened. And so I hope that the conversation that continues after this, if you were to support us, is that we can continue to work with those neighbors to try to make improvements to things that maybe concern them that we're able to help with. And I think my client, Kevin Peterson, may want to address the board for a moment.
Okay.
And we'll take any questions. Is that okay? Okay.
Chairman, members of the supervisors, my name is Kevin Peterson, 3369 East Queen Creek Road in Gilbert, Arizona. I don't really want to add too much to what was said today, but I do want to touch on a couple things if I could. We had no intention to come and buy this property and upset neighbors. That was not our intention. A small correction, we didn't do a pancake breakfast, but we did a breakfast burrito breakfast, so for the record. Unfortunately, there are parcels where urban is going to eventually touch the rural lifestyle. And unfortunately, in the comprehensive plan and where the utilities are expected to be served by global utilities with water and sewer, this happens to be one of those unfortunate parcels where the line is. But when we bought the property, we didn't buy this to come in to change what was contemplated, but rather what we're doing here is just processing what was already contemplated by the utility extensions and the comprehensive plan. Warren Road is eventually going to be a major north-south regional road. In fact, down the road, which is sad to even think about, but even if Freeway 11 comes through, there's a scheduled interchange 1/8 mile north of what we're talking about on this property on Warren Road. So as time goes on, this area will change to some degree. We feel we've been responsible by talking to the neighbors. We visited with them. We talked about buffering their properties with 1 acre lots, which we did do. We restricted 2-story. We tried to minimize any through traffic. When they say they've talked to me and I'm not willing to work with them, I've been working with them, and we gave them copies of the PAD before we even submitted it to staff, asking for comments. And as Jordan mentioned, for months after our communication, we heard nothing from them or none of the neighborhoods. And that's why we were surprised at planning and zoning when everyone showed up concerned and opposing the project. Even after the planning and zoning, we extended the opportunity to talk prior to this hearing, and we've heard nothing from no one until tonight. They would like us to keep this a rural project. That's not what we're contemplating doing. That's not what's part of the plan. And so if we extended the time, that would be their request, and our response would have to be, well, we would have to respectfully disagree on what we're processing here. So I don't think the extra time is really going to do any good. We believe we have been sensitive to the neighborhood. We've communicated with them, and we're processing a project that is in compliance, has staff support, has P&Z support, and unfortunately is one of those unfortunate pieces that touch where the rural lifestyle is, where the urban contemplation of density, maybe higher density, starts. We would appreciate your support. We'd be grateful for your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
Mr. Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned your communication and with the residents, and I think the attorney mentioned 14 months since the process started. What was your communication with residents in the area? How far out did you go? How many invites to the breakfast did you send?
Yeah, Corey, go ahead.
Chair and Supervisor Kavanaugh, I have the list right here, so I can address that. Kevin, actually, on October 9th, 2021, he went with, I think, a couple of his sons down there and did, I stand corrected, it was eggs and bacon or whatever it was, but he did the breakfast. So that was, and then they sent a follow-up email of the PAD narrative and all the lot layouts prior to filing, and that happened on June 3rd, 2022. And that was Kevin again. I wasn't even involved in this.
And how many people did you
how many?
I think there was, my son-in-law's here that handled that.
How many did you send out?
20 some on the email list.
It was within the required boundaries of
Whoever
what
we had email contact with at the meeting we had.
And then the actual mail out, which the county has the list of the people who live in the area and the required distance under your ordinance, happened on October 24th, 2022. And again, Kevin and his family did all that. The newspaper advertising happened on October 27th, 2022, and then the site posting, which the applicant did on October 26th. And then another group email, and then there's been a group email chain that's continually being, communicated with, and they had not heard anything at Planning Commission. I mean, he didn't even think to call me to come to Planning Commission because he thought he had this, relationship and he had done what he said he would do, and that's why he thought they were quiet. So we were surprised. They were surprised, and then he called on me. So he's been really, active. So thanks for the question.
And I understand, so that's, going back a minute to the plan there, reducing the numbers of houses on the lots nearest to the established residences. That's voluntary on your part. Our P&Z didn't ask for that.
Chair and the Supervisor Kavanaugh, yeah, no, your Planning Commission did not ask for that. We voluntarily did that.
Could I add, if you look at the map, adjacent are 1 acre lots, then there's another half-acre lot buffer, and then the higher density starts.
Okay.
We finished? Anyone else? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, what was the reference to 2006? Was that early on your...
Chair and Supervisor Miller, great question. So in 2006, Global Utilities signed a deal to serve this particular property, and so that is still in place. And so they have service from Global. The corporation, that is a regulated utility. And so I guess what my point on that is that in a place where there's so many lots that can't be developed because of water issues, this is not that. This is actually where people who potentially could work at all of these great jobs that Pinal County's bringing, could actually live here. And they don't have that issue with ADWR where they're stuck and they can't get permits for their homes.
Correct, their designation.
That's correct.
And they have, they gave you a will serve letter is what we talk about.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Yes. And and did you own the property in 2006, or was that just attached to a previous owner? Okay, that's fine. Just a couple of things that have been brought up. One of the things they're concerned about the flood issue and the development of a subdivision. I can tell you that there's not going to be any money spent on that aspect of this project until they know that the zoning is in place. There would be no reason to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the development of a subdivision until you know you're going to be building a subdivision. And we have plenty of standards and requirements for subdivision development within our system. Yes. So the water, I can tell you, I know Global Water very well. They're not going to give you a will serve letter unless they can serve your water. And it'll be a 100-year certificate. It'll be attached to the public report to anybody that buys the place. Anybody that buys a home in that subdivision. So that is, those are two things that are they're there. It's unfortunate that I'm going to just say our community, and I'm going to use that broadly for the county of Pinal, it's kind of reached this point where we were supposed to close the doors at some point. Nobody's going to move here anymore. We're not going to develop anymore. We're not going to have any more solar farms. We're not going to have any more rooftops. We're not going to have any more anything. We didn't get the memo. That's the problem with all of this. And I think that the real issue is the property rights. The way we protect somebody else's property rights is the method in which, or the process that you have to go through to do a subdivision, a rezoning, and what have you. That must be where the problem is, because we've had this stuff in place, we've had these requirements in place to allow property owners to rezone their property to do whatever project it is. And we have some pretty good restrictions on there. You're not going to be able to go put a glue factory in here. You're not going to go put something that we set it up for residential development. Now, you can argue that the density is good or the density is bad, but it is what it is. It's the development of a residential area, and it is adjacent to a acre and a quarter plus type of land, which I go back to the environment as well, as far as Global Water is going to provide a sewer system to, if I understand right, I mean, that's what their job is, or that's what their firm does, is water and sewer. And I can tell you a sewer system will be better to the environment and to the properties and protect whatever wells are out there. So, there's a reason to have a sewer system in place out there. as far as the water levels, I know that the irrigation district has numerous wells out there that the water levels have come up. I don't know, and I don't know which wells out there are irrigation and which ones are global water. You know, I'm not going to go down into that detail at this point in time. Global Water, I can tell you, knows exactly what's going on out there. And again, back to them, they're not going to issue a letter without having the ability to deliver. So, you know, I guess we have to change the process, and we're not going to do that today at this meeting, because evidently we can't, the two cannot coexist, or is what we're hearing from the public is they don't want the two to coexist. So, but we've given Mr. Peterson and other developers the opportunity to buy a piece of land and to go through a process to produce what they want, and they've met those requirements as far as I can tell. I can't find any requirement they didn't meet. And so for the future, I guess you're going to have to change the process, everybody, if you don't like what's going on here. But I can't take away Mr. Peterson's rights because he has followed the path of acceptance to this point. So I think it's, I said it in an earlier meeting this year. I think if there's a piece of vacant land next to you, you might want to know that there's probably going to be more rooftops come closer to you. And I can't I can't close the doors. I can tell you, things change all the time. Quality of life to me was 1970. 2 million people in Arizona, you could go down to Yellowfront and get a deer tag and go hunting. You didn't have to apply for nothing. All you had to do is have a hunting license. That's all changed. And, you know, I can say I don't like that, but it ain't going to go back. And so there's, you know, it's just where we're at. And I don't know when we're going to go from 2 million people. Now we're at 7 million people. And I got to believe that in less than a decade, we'll probably be close to 9 million people. I don't know where we're going to get the water. I don't know all of those answers. But nobody's stopping anybody from coming in here, and they're not going to. And it is what it is. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Supervisor Kavanaugh wants some time, but I want to ask, the neighbors weren't real impressed with the pocket park. Can people that live outside use the park? Would that be up to the future HOA?
Chair and supervisors, yes, they can. It won't be a gated community, so they could use the park.
Okay, thanks. Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So some of the constituents brought up some issues. One of them was endangered species on the property. And if there is an endangered species, how will that be handled?
Chair and Supervisor Kavanaugh, if there's an endangered species, we'll go through all of the required environmental permitting and regulations, and there's a federal process for that.
Okay. And in terms of the schools, have there been communications with the schools on how they're going to accept the students if this project is developed?
Chair and Supervisor, yes, the school district was notified and did not require a school site here, and so that indicates they believe they have adequate capacity for any students.
Okay. One of the things I've heard at various times is light pollution. Is there an ordinance in place that you're aware of that deals with light pollution that would apply to this area?
Chair and Supervisor Kavanaugh, I'm going to look to your county attorney because he reads the ordinance more frequently than I do.
And I'm going to refer to planning and zoning because I don't believe there is a specific one, if I recall correctly, but that's been several months since I looked.
If the HOA wanted to do something with respect, if they got started and the HOA wanted to do something with respect to light pollution, that could be handled on the lower level, and we have our planning department.
Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. Kavanaugh, so in our zoning ordinance, there are different light level determinations based upon area. I believe this particular area is light level 1, correct, Ryan? So that's the lowest light level as determined under the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so when you review the plans and the stipulations, that light level 1 is included. You can't put
yes.
upward facing lights. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Want to go to Supervisor Goodman?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Supervisor Goodman.
Oh, thank you. These are probably more questions towards our staff when it comes to roadways and things of that nature. I mean, the consideration is somebody. Could I have a member of our staff come up? Or, well, actually, Chris is coming up. He's our guru.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair.
And I appreciate all of this because, I mean, quite honestly, with what we're starting here is something that's started in other areas in the county. Many of us are familiar with the Santan Valley area and how that all started, or the process of everything and to where it's become what it is. And so as I'm looking at this, when we talk about the roads and infrastructure and everything else of that nature, Chris, as you're seeing what this subdivision is going to do and the improvements that are going to be required of them, from a regional perspective, how is that being handled with this particular subdivision?
So, first thing I want to point out is we're still reviewing the traffic impact analysis. It actually has not been approved yet. We don't approve those at this stage. We look at it at a higher level. It's considered more preliminary, and as the development is refined through the plating process, that report and analysis becomes more detailed, and those required improvements get finalized at that point. So as the applicant had stated, they'll be doing their half-street improvements for Warren Road. And in addition to that, as noted in the TIA, they have to do left and right turn lanes at all 4 access points, which will have a great benefit on keeping that traffic moving while the turning movements are being made. And we did have some comments about potentially additional improvements to Warren Road north of this development to add additional capacity, like over the canal. But that, again, is through the traffic impact analysis review process, which is still ongoing. And the other part of this is we have to coordinate this project's traffic analysis with all the other developments that are proposed in the same location, like Hidden Valley Estates, which is just north, and then everything along Papago, because the majority of the traffic from this development will be going north and then over to the east on Papago. So there's still a lot of work to be done on that, but at this point, I think a lot of these issues can be worked out through that subdivision planning process.
Okay, and I appreciate that because I think it's important that the public knows that there's a lot more planning process that needs to take place with these particular developments that are coming into the area. I grew up in Mesa on Higley between Southern and Broadway. And we were able to ride our horses and go do everything. The orchards were right there. We had alfalfa fields next to us. The guy, when he grew onions, he would let us go out there and get the coals, and we would set out a little stand out in front along Higley Road there, and people would stop by and buy onions from us. The other gentleman he let us do that as kids, and we floated down the canal in tubes. That was our river rafting, and so there was all those type of things that grew up in downtown. Now it's pretty much, we were considered out in the sticks. But you look at where that area is today and what's happened and transpired over the time. There was a couple, 3 dairies in there. One of the good friends of mine, the Greer family, they had a dairy not too far from there. And they ended up moving out into the Queen Creek area. And now they're out of the dairy business. They don't have any more kids that wanted to continue that on. But to Supervisor Miller's point, the growth is coming, and I don't remember seeing that memo either, that we're putting the stops to all of this here. And quite honestly, nor should we, I believe personally. I think there is a way that we could handle these type of developments. I wish there was some type of a master plan when Santan Valley was originally designed and put together. I know there was a group of people, especially with our roads. I'm always amazed that the North-South Freeway, back 35 years ago, the discussion was to go along Meridian Road and run it diagonally along the railroad tracks out to Attaway and then out towards south. And that was 35 years ago, that discussion, and we're still having that discussion today amidst all of our population that we have. It's time for us to start acting on these things. Well, the other part is we need more of our developers to get together in some type of planning session to where they're working on a regional perspective, working together to solve some of these, along with county, to work through some of these issues and problems, and to get input from our communities. And so, but going along with this, I don't think that these projects should be. I think the consideration of the neighbors around them obviously should always be looked at. Where I live right now, I live on 5 acres, and I have these developments all around us. And there's other little mini farms that are around in that neighborhood there in Santan Valley. There's 3 or 4 other patches like that. But I look at the town of Queen Creek and what they've done there. They've got 2 or 3. The city of Gilbert has a few of these that are considered county islands, and they've been able to help maintain with their development and their planning process to where they still give the rural feel to the communities. And Queen Creek's done a pretty good job with the riding trails and everything else that they have available down the wash there. And so as these type of projects come forward, I think it's imperative that we look at those type of things, utilizing the landscape and everything around us so that those type of amenities are still, for our rural people, I being one, is still under consideration and taken for that. And so, anyway, that's where I'm at on this, because I think that the growth and everything else has to go forward. We've got to continue to do that. So, anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. And thank you for addressing the traffic issue. Oh, one more comment, if I might. You know, I've been around long enough that whenever the Central Arizona Canal System was first put together, and when that was all designed, was to help relieve the groundwater that was being pumped over in this particular area. And there was going to be a time when that was going to have to, because we didn't know what was going to happen with the reservoir system up along the Colorado River. And the plan was to, at some point, we may have to pump again. And it was to look at, in this type of a method, is what was going to take place over the years. You know, we don't have control over the weather or anything else, but I will tell you, the good Lord does, and He blesses us when the time is right with good snowfalls, and I don't mean to stand here and preach about these things, but nonetheless, it's Mother Nature that handles all of that and gives us these things. And I'm with Supervisor Miller. I know for a fact that the water tables have risen over the years, and so there is, in my opinion, I believe there's ample water, but at some point that's going to have to adjust back. And there's going to have to be continuous effort to bring in other resources of water supply, especially with the continued growth that we're having. And I think we're doing a good job looking for that. Thank you.
Several of the folks that spoke talked about a delay. Is there anything that can be accomplished with delaying this vote, postponing?
I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
I don't see anything.
Wanted to address their concerns.
Supervisor Kavanaugh.
Sorry, I'm thinking slow on that one. Sometimes we delay if there's an issue that's unaddressed, and if there's something I think I can hang my hat on, and a good reason for delay. In this instance, I don't see that there is. And in terms of the layout, I'd have never met the developer before, and when I heard that he did this 1 acre, half acre down, and so on, that's rather big of him to do that, and I'm quite frankly surprised that a developer would just do that out of the desire to get along well with the neighbor. So I don't see a reason at this time to delay.
Okay, are there any more questions for the presenters or discussion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there is no more, then this is where I would ask for a motion, and these would be done separately.
Do we need to close the public hearing?
What?
Did we close public?
I did close the public hearing,
You
yes.
closed it.
Is there a motion on item number 12?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 12 as presented with no stipulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one's unanimous. Item number 13.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item number 13 as presented with the 15 stipulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that one's unanimous as well. Which 14 through 16, which we'll discuss together. Discussion and possible approval, disapproval of ordinance number 2022-PZ-PD-015-22. This is Eldorado Holdings Langley. And this is Ryan again.
Hello again, Mr. Chairman, Board. My name is Ryan Green, and I'll be discussing cases PZPD 015-22, PZ 027-22, and PZPD 01422. This case altogether is the Arizona Farms PAD overlay. This is a mixed-use development with commercial and denser housing options limited to the perimeter, with a large single-family area that has a density that corresponds to 3.45 dwelling units per acre. The proposal's PZPD 01522 is requesting a severance or removal of the site, the 761 acres, from the PZPD 039-98, which is the original Arizona Farms overlay. And the PZ 027 is requesting a new rezone of the site from CR3, CR4, SR, CB1, and CI1 to R7, MR, and C2. The next case, PZPD 01422, is requesting the new Arizona Farms PAD overlay to the site. The site is located on the south side of Arizona Farms Road, west side of Felix Road, the east side of Copper Basin Railroad, and on the north side of Heritage Road near Florence, Arizona. The applicants are Eldorado Farms, LLC, and Langley Arizona Farms 150, LLC. Their agent is Greg Davis from iPlan Consulting, who is present. Now, we can look at the county map. It's juxtaposed directly on the border with Florence in the central part of the county, not too far from Santan and Queen Creek. The vicinity map here, the brown area is the town of Florence. As you can see, to the west side of it is state land and R7. Directly south of it is CR2. And now the aerial map, the site is outlined in yellow, with the purple area being the town of Florence. This also highlights the farm or agricultural uses of the area currently.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So is that, thank you, Mr. Chair, is the purple where they are currently at? When you say the town of Florence, does that include part of their planning area? Or they actually, is that in their city limits?
Mr. Chairman, Board, the purple area is indeed the town of Florence area currently.
Okay. I see the former town manager back there nodding his head as well, so.
Thanks, Brent.
The purple is the current boundary. This project would fall in their planning area.
Okay.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Cool. There you go.
And here we get a closer view of the area map. Again, the town of Florence is highlighted in orange. The site is in purple, and as you see down to the southeast of the site is a current subdivision that was amended from the old PAD.
I'm going to ask now, I'm going to ask this later. Since this is so close to Florence, and I know we can't speak for them, do you feel they have any plans for annexation? And, of course, people have to annex themselves. And here comes the former Florence employee again.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chair, could you ask that the whole question? It didn't sound like you got all the way through it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, this project's different than the last one because this is denser. It is closer to cities. It would be so much easier that once these got done to turn them over to a municipality so that they could manage them. Is there any plan that anybody knows of for Florence to take this in?
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, that Arizona Farms approached the town of Florence when I was the manager for a potential annexation. Now, that's been years ago. I think that was 5 years ago. And Florence was not interested in annexing it at that time. However, Florence annually revisits opportunities to provide annexations, and this is in their planning area. And as you can tell, it's somewhat surrounded by their current city limits. So I would anticipate that they'll continue to have discussions into the future about expanding their boundaries.
Okay.
Hope that helped.
Okay. So later on in this presentation, I was going to make a statement that, we can't control the cities, and Steve, you said that the growth is coming, but until further roads get built, I'm going to be putting builders on notice that eventually I'm going to be I may well vote yes on this, but anything that's on the books now, I'm on record saying that once we build everything that's on the books, we'll basically have enough housing. And if they're still trying to create more, I'm eventually going to be against that until we do. 469 didn't pass. I was hoping that would, and that would help to alleviate all this. But I'm just getting that out there that eventually I will, we all wish that 20 years ago people had kind of planned this ahead. So, if it's private land and it's zoned, then yes, they can do it. But some of the controversial zoning, I may end up being against. I'm just putting that out there. So.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to tell you, I have the same sentiment particularly about transportation. We can't get into too much of a discussion there. But, where's the responsibility of a developer down the road? I mean, he's going to do this subdivision. He only has to fix this road right here, but everybody's going to be driving to town.
Exactly.
So this road down here is not fixed.
It affects more than just.
And there's debate as to, really how that can be perceived. So, I share the same sentiments.
All right, Ryan, we let you go back to your presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes. Now we look at too far. Yes, the comprehensive plan. The entire site is highlighted in yellow, and it is designated moderate low density residential, from 1 dwelling to 3.5 dwellings per acre. The red area is designated for commercial, and the subdivision I was referring to before, to the southeast of the site, is medium density, 3.5 dwellings to 8 dwellings per acre. Now we look at the current zoning map. The town of Florence, again, is highlighted now in gray. If you look to the west of the site, past the railroad tracks, that's R7. The subdivision I was talking about previously is CR3. And most of the site itself is CR2, if I remember correctly. And if you look at the zoning map right here, that jagged purplish line in the old PAD was a golf course and is currently zoned SR. Now we're looking north to the adjacent farm, south onto the site, which is currently farmland. Looking east on Arizona Farms Road, and west on Arizona Farms Road. Subject site details. Proposed is a mixed-use subdivision that is mostly single-family. The single-family area density of the development is 3.45 dwelling units per acre, with lot sizes ranging from 5,500 square feet to 9,100 square feet. Here are the proposed development standards. They're requesting a 2-foot reduction in lot width in the R7 zone, side setbacks of 5 and 8 from 10 feet in the zone, and a rear setback reduced setback of 10 feet in the R7 zone. In the MR pad zone, they're requesting a reduction of 10 feet for, make sure I got this right, between buildings. And the maximum height, they want to keep it the same but allow for architectural projections. In the CR2 zone, they're requesting the same amendment to allow for architectural projections. Here is their overall site plan. As you can see, these lots are roughly, are 5,500 square feet, with commercial and higher density housing options limited to the northern and southeastern part of the site. Now, I want to take a moment to highlight in the northeast part of this development, those black dotted lines. That is to represent the potentiality of a north-south corridor, but like the chairman said, Prop 469 didn't pass, so we are not sure where it's going or when it's going. And here are their proposed landscaping requirements. 1 tree for every 1,000 square feet of open space, 15 gallons, with 15 gallons and 25% of these trees to be 24-inch box trees, meaning they will have 6,700 trees. And the shrubs are 7 shrubs per every 1,000 square feet of open space. The minimum size is 5 gallons, so 47,000 shrubs. And for streetscapes and entryways, 5 shrubs for every 30 linear feet of open space. Again, 5-gallon minimums, totaling 8,000 shrubs. Their open space and recreation plan includes a connected pedestrian trail, 2 community parks, and 7 neighborhood parks. To the left, Community Park A, they're proposing a pool, a shade ramada over it, a large open space that's a semicircle, a full basketball court, grills, ample parking. And Community Park B, they're proposing a soccer field with an adjacent open space, 4 half basketball courts, 3 court areas, most likely for crochet or pickleball, an adjacent court, and plenty parking. Both of these will be required to go through the site plan process when the time is to be installed. Here is their pedestrian trail. The red dotted line is the walkway, and they're also proposing connectivity from the higher density options and the commercial options, so anybody living in this community can walk to any park. Comprehensive plan compliance. The single-family area density is 3.5 dwelling units per acre and is within the moderate low density designation range. The commercial and denser housing options are restricted to the intersections of existing or proposed enhanced parkways, and the presence of commercial space with residential space will enhance the chance for residents to live, work, learn, and play in close proximity of their homes. Items for board consideration. Adherence to the comprehensive plan. This proposal will add over 2,300 single-family units to the housing stock, while adding 54 acres of medium to high density residential uses, and approval will add 38 acres of commercial space near Santan and Florence. No public comments have been received. Okay, so between the time of P&Z to this meeting today, staff has added 2 comments per direction of the agent, with Public Works giving the green light. So I shall now read stipulation 15 into the record as such. Quote, in lieu of Adway Road extending south of Arizona Farms Road, the project shall provide a collector-level road network that connects Arizona Farms Road to Heritage Road, end quote. Now for stipulation 16, quote, building setbacks shall allow for architectural projections and roof eaves to encroach up to 18 inches into the setbacks. However, a minimum 36-inch clear zone without air conditioning condensers or other obstructions shall be provided around all sides of structures to satisfy the Americans with Disabilities Act, end quote. When you bring a motion of approval, staff recommends including these two stipulations as read into the record. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval 6-0 with no stipulations for the removal case and zoning case, and now 16 stipulations as outlined in the staff report. Any questions for staff?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, am I understanding that the lot size they're asking to be reduced, and the setbacks even to be reduced? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, sir. They're requesting a roughly 1,500 reduction in the R7 zone, with the side setbacks being 5 and 8 feet. They're also asking for a stipulation to allow architectural projections to encroach into it, but not too far, but also must have a 3-foot clear space around the entire house to accommodate for ADA compliance.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, just speaking out loud, one of the things and the concerns that I would have if we're allowing these things, do we look at it from a perspective of fighting a fire or anything of that nature with these homes or that close in proximity? I think that's a safety issue that I don't know if we've considered that. I'm sure we have. I just want to make sure.
Yes, sir, we have.
Sorry, Ryan, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. I think I can help to fully answer that question. First, one of the things that was negotiated as part of this PAD is we wanted to see some larger lots. So initially the proposal came in with 45-foot lots for their smaller lots. They've increased that to 48. Their originally proposed 50-foot lots have been increased to 53 feet, and their 55s to 58, and they've also provided 70-foot lots. All of the questions that you asked are part of those conversations. Now, stipulation number 16, we were conversing about as recent as this morning, and we've talked with the applicant, we talked with the county attorney's office, we talked with Public Works, obviously planning. There's 4 main considerations in terms of federal, state, and local codes that are of primary concern when you look at setbacks and how those setbacks are measured. Number 1 is the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires a 36-inch clear zone. That's so somebody who's blind, deaf, utilizing a wheelchair can access all sides of their property, which can be accommodated with this stipulation. The second one has to do with the ICC fire code, in that there is a minimum separation between buildings, which isn't just walls, that's also roofs. They have to be a minimum of 5 feet apart, or else you have to fireproof both the underlying portion of the eaves, and you can't use typical fascia like 2x6 boards. They have to be fireproofed if you're closer than 5 feet. That can be accommodated here as well. The third one is access to the all sides of the structure by fire or police. Say there's a swimming pool in the back of the property, and there's some sort of emergency at the swimming pool. You want to make sure that the fire and police folks could get in and make access to that particular emergency. We believe that this allows for that due to the 36-inch clear zone that allows for that. Lastly, there is a concern that has to be considered that additional impervious surface area, roof area, driveway area, et cetera, could affect the overall engineering of the drainage and flood control on the site. That was analyzed by Public Works, and all entities were in agreement that this particular stipulation, if added, can satisfy the request of the developer and meet the litmus test for the 4 items I've described. Hopefully that helped.
That does. Thank you.
Okay.
And then if I continue,
yes.
if and to several of the points that had been made on the previous case, the one that I feel that's been neglected to some degree is, I mean, we just had a work session and a presentation on parks and those for the entire public as a whole. And when you talk about the schools, this is only going to add more volume to the schools that are currently there with the 6 high schools. That all this area is going to do is just increase that, and even more of the demand for the type of amenities that we've been talking about from a community, the entire community as a whole. And who's setting land aside to help that? Who's doing all of that? And I think that's part of some of the discussions. And when we get to the last part of our agenda, I think there's several things that we can be looking at for some of our discussions that should include many of our stakeholders, meaning our developers, in that discussion, to your point. But anyway, that's just something I'm looking at this, and I just want to make sure that we're talking about those things. And I know we're just talking about a rezone right now, but as we're moving forward, those are some things that should be really looked at and considered. So, thanks.
Yes, sir, I agree.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was not able to comment on that. May I?
Sure.
Should we get Gordon Ray on the phone?
I haven't opened
email
up
from
public.
him from June. Let's see, this one's June 14, 2022. The county's still turning down homes that put the foundation on the setback line. What will it take to, what will it take to make a note that the requirement permanently go away? So I think this setback issue for builders and architects is important. They want to get as many houses on there as they can. The concern is, have we, thoroughly examined ingress, egress, and the fire encroachment and so on. So I think those have been addressed. But I think Mr. Ray, had I thought about it, I would have had him watch this and maybe give his input.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. So is there anyone here that would like to speak on this?
Chairman, if we can have the applicant presentation.
Okay, the applicant first, and then.
Thank you, Chairman, and members of the board. My name is Greg Davis with iPlan Consulting here on behalf of Eldorado Holdings and Langley Properties. So I have a fairly detailed presentation, but I'll just give you the light version since it's been a long day and we've had a lot of discussion. But just kind of hit the highlights of the project, because I think a lot of the things you're talking about, are applicable to projects that come in. This is a slightly different situation because this is an existing PAD that's been on the books for 25 years, and I'll kind of demonstrate that here. So this is the original PAD for this property and other properties. This is almost 3,000 acres that was approved back in 1998. Our property is that 761 acres that you can see there. So a lot of the issues having to do with, like, schools, for instance, impact fees, things that transportation have kind of been in the works since that time. Our proposal, as staff indicated, is for mixed use with the C2, MR, and R7. So when we do an existing PAD, we'll look at the existing table, land use, and the proposed table, which I have up there. And you can see we're proposing about 8 additional acres of commercial. We think this is going to be a very viable commercial location, which I'll talk about in just a minute why. We have 1 additional acre of multifamily, so we're not bringing in a bunch of multifamily that isn't out there approved today. And the balance of the property is going to single-family residential, where we have 106 acres of that. Now, regardless of those changes, our overall unit count is actually less than what it's approved for today. So we're bringing down the density by 364 units from what the current zoning allows for under the PAD. And we think that's pretty important when we start talking about traffic and density and impacts to surrounding property owners. This will actually be less impactful than those projects, than the existing PAD would be. I'll go through real quick the land use table. We have the single-family portion, which is 29 parcels that you can see out that line in red. We have 3 multifamily parcels, the 2 more dense ones in the north, and then a slightly less dense to the southeast, and 3 commercial parcels. And I'll part of the design philosophy of why we wanted to put that intensity along Arizona Farms Road has to do with some of the more regional transportation efforts that are going on. The first is that both Felix and Arizona Farms Road are designated as major arterial roadways. So these are the most intense roadways, arterials that the county has, and it's along both of our frontages. We also have the Sonoran Parkway, East Parkway, that is planned for, that connects State Route 24, and it basically ends and dumps all that traffic onto Arizona Farms Road. So we're kind of at the front door to that major transportation intersection. And then finally, when you add in the the state north-south freeway, which again we know is time frame is unknown, but you can see the preferred alignment. It comes across our northeast boundary. So this intersection between Attaway and Felix on Arizona Farms is going to be a major center of traffic and activity. And it's those reasons why we place those commercial and higher density parcels in that area. So we have, as you can see there, we have 3 of each. The 2 commercial parcels along Arizona Farms Road are both about 15 to 20 acres in size. They're really set up to be major anchors, grocery anchors, maybe even a small power center, depending on what the commercial situation looks like when this finally develops. So those are going to be very intense auto-related uses, which is why we're placing them along our perimeter where all the rest of the traffic is. We do have a small commercial parcel planned for the southeast corner, which we expect to be more neighborhood commercial. It's only 4 acres in size. You're not going to get a lot of regional traffic. It's really meant to serve the neighborhood and the existing residential area to the south. From a multifamily standpoint, a similar situation. The 2 parcels along Arizona Farms Road are 15 to 20 acres, and they're really designed to accommodate your more traditional type of multifamily. Because we're going to have a lot of retail here, because we are close to transportation corridors, that's what multifamily needs to be successful and viable, to have those services there, and that's why we positioned them in this location. But we have agreed with staff to build in a 100-foot buffer for those multifamily parcels against our residential areas to the south. That's always an issue. We want our residents, when they come in, to know that those are zoned for multifamily, so they're not up here complaining to you, gentlemen. But the zoning will be in place so that there isn't those questions to be asked later. The other multifamily, which is one that some of the neighbors to the south have contacted us about, this is a more reduced density. We're proposing a maximum of 12 units per acre. It's not enough density to have a traditional 2 or 3 story walk-up apartment. It's really designed for more of the build-to-rent patio homes that you see being built now in the urban areas. El Dorado has actually built one in Spur Cross, just a few miles away in Queen Creek, and I think I have a photo of that right there. Illustration, not a photo. But this is a product that they plan or something to build in this location. So you can see, even though it's multifamily, it's very residential, very single family in nature. They are duplexes and standalone units, but we don't like to, when we use the term multifamily, we want to make sure everyone understands what we're proposing for that southeast parcel, because it is against adjacent single-family residents. So our lot sizes, as staff indicated, we do have a mix of them, which is shown in the table in the upper right. We did enlarge the lot sizes, as Brent indicated, to help accommodate for those setbacks that we talked about. We are providing over 23% in open space for the project to help offset that. That's basically where that open space goes. If the lots get smaller, the open space gets grander, and we have an extra 30 to 40 acres of open space than the code requires, also above what the existing PAD does. And you can see that there. So we have 155 acres of open space, so it's 23.2%. We'd like to get 20% on every project, and the existing PAD at 18%, so we're exceeding all those requirements, including the active open space, which we have almost 50 acres of. The 2 parks, which Ryan indicated, I won't go into those, but you can see El Dorado is kind of known for well amenitizing their communities, like Bella Vista Farms, several large community parks. They're not open to the public, so they don't address the concerns that you expressed, Supervisor Goodman, but they do address the needs of the residents that are coming into this community. So we have all off-street parking for these, so we're not having issues. And we also have a very comprehensive pedestrian system so people can access it without their vehicles. This is the second park, which is more of a sports park. And then these are the smaller parks, which, as Ryan indicated, we have 7 of throughout the community. And here's that pedestrian plan again. Just real quick on buffering, we have 2 buffers built into the project along the railroad, which is 130 feet along the southwest side of the property. And then we have also a 30-foot buffer along Heritage Road, again, to help address some of the buffer concerns from the residents that we met with. We've had a lot of communication with them throughout the year or so that this project is going on. So I think that's one of the reasons why this room's not full today. So. And just in summary, we're amending an existing PAD that's in place. We're trying to make it a better PAD. We're bringing some elements that weren't in the original one, and we're doing so by actually reducing the amount of density in units in it. We're exceeding the open space. We're trying to build in those land uses that are more difficult to come back and ask for, such as commercial and multifamily. We're trying to bake them into the plan now so that as residents move in, they can say they did their homework and these are on the map, which will make them less likely to oppose them when they do finally come forward towards construction. And we've also built those higher intensity uses along Arizona Farms Road, which is going to be the major arterial street in this area. We do think the plan is compatible with the existing residential area. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and we do come to you with staff support. And we do really want to thank staff for their work at the last minute on that stipulation with that encroachment. It came up at the 11th hour, and staff jumped on it and really helped us come to a solution today, so we thank them for that. Mr. Brad Hinton is here with El Dorado if you have any questions for him or I, but thank you for your time.
Are there any questions? Okay. Now it's public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any more discussion among the board? Then I'll ask for a motion on, we have to do 14 first.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve item 14 as presented, no stipulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Item number 15. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item number 15 with no stipulations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That one's unanimous. And lastly, number 16. A motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 16 as presented with the Planning Commission 14 stipulations and 2 additional stipulations that were requested by the applicant with approval from the Public Works for a total of 16 stipulations.
Is there a second on that one?
Second.
That one is seconded as well. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that one's unanimous. Item number 17. Let's see, Angie. Discussion approval to self-fund the Pinal County short-term disability program.
Mary Ellen was down here. Here she
Mary Ellen
is.
is here. Mary Ellen, they need this room, so you need to hurry it up.
Chairman, members of the board, Mary Ellen Shepard, Deputy County Manager. We are seeking your approval today to change our short-term disability program from a fully insured program to one that is self-funded by Pinal County. As a reminder, short-term disability is a program that we offer at no cost to our employees in order to assist them with the financial impact of disabling injury or illness that may prevent them from working. The shift from fully insured to self-funded will not impact on the employee's eligibility or their experience. Rather, it's expected it will save the county approximately $200,000 or more depending upon claims. The cost savings is a result of a shift from paying for premiums to paying for the actual need or claim. This proposal has been reviewed and approved by our Pinal County Benefits Trust Board. And if I may, I'd like to thank CBIZ and our employee benefits manager, Danielle Watkins, for their work in bringing this cost-saving opportunity forward to you for consideration. The actual effective date, if you approve it today, will be at some point in the future after coordination between our Office of Budget and Finance and our plan administrator. Any questions that I may answer for you?
Are there any questions? I don't see any, so thank you.
Thank you all.
Is there a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 17 as presented.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that was unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. Board members, if you have anything upcoming, after the first of the year, I'm going to have some things. Since it's Christmas, why don't you just not ask for anything right now? No.
We've kind of set it up for the next go-around
Exactly.
anyway. But I think it's important that we kind of put people on notice that we're going to have some serious discussions about things, where we're headed as a county.
Definitely.
But yeah,
Okay.
other than Merry Christmas.
Yes.
I'm good.
All right. And we are going to go into executive session. Do I need a motion for that?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? No. We're in exec.
Aye.
Sure. Next year.
Okay.